Hey guys, welcome to Dan Reviews It and the Film Fanatics reunion here, together again. I'm Dan, of course. This is Justin. This is Joe.
Hello, hello.
Sometimes known as Merlin.
Sometimes.
Usually on my channel we refer to you as Joe, though.
It mixes up.
It mixes up. I like to keep people on their toes.
Okay.
And we are doing the best and worst films of the decade. I already did it with the TV shows of the decade, but who better to do the top and worst films of the decade than these gentlemen? So we have all compiled a top 25 best, a 10 worst. There's going to be, as you would expect, some honorable mentions in the mix. And I also thought it'd be fun to have us try and guess each other's top #1 best movie of the decade. And also, as an aside, we sort of were talking off air about how many movies we think will maybe be on all 3 of our lists. I went with only 2. Justin had 5.
Yep.
Joe split the difference and did 4.
In hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, in retrospect, I think you're probably going to take that one, Joe. But I think I'm too few and Justin maybe too many. But let's. I have a grid here that I made. Joe was making fun of me about this earlier, but
it's a game.
It's a little game. So here are my picks for you guys for the #1 at best.
All right.
Justin, I think your #1 of the decade is Birdman.
Okay.
Ooh.
So we're gonna write that in.
I thought about it.
Joe, I'm all over the place on you, but I feel like it's
As you
going to
should
be some sort of superhero movie. So my guess for you is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, which I think was just called probably Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Volume 1?
OG.
But yes, OG. Guardians,
The first one.
#1, all right. Limited space here. All right. Justin, what do you think will be my #1 movie of the decade?
In honor of the great review,
Oh,
The
God.
Descendants.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I forgot about
Interesting choice. I do love George Clooney and The Descendants.
that. He does love that movie.
He's talking about the George Clooney one, not the Disney.
Yes, not the soon-to-be Disney trilogy.
Surprisingly, I've never seen. You'd think that'd be up my alley as well. The
Definitely.
Descendants. I think I spelled this correctly. All right. And what do you think Joe's #1
And
will
for
be?
Joe, I gotta go with 2013's Inside Llewyn Davis.
Oh. Boy, I forgot that movie existed.
So did the rest
But
of the
I was going to say, you guys both, that was both your, I think, #1s of that year. So
It was.
That could go. All right, Joe, what do you think for me?
For you, I'm going to go a throwback. I think it stands strong. Toy Story 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Toy Story 3 from all the way at the beginning of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your pick for Justin?
Justin was more complicated, but I don't know. Something just said Moonrise Kingdom.
I was between the 2 for Justin. I thought Moonrise is definitely going to be up there.
Although-
Will it be #1? I don't know.
Birdman, I strongly consider too.
Yeah.
I could see Justin going Birdman.
Both solid choices.
I think these are all solid choices. I'm not sure about mine for Joe, but I think...
No, yours was a good guess.
I think all of these are pretty good. So as we move along, we will see how these hold up for each of us. So we're going to do sort of what we do with like the best of the year, when we're going to do some of the best first, and then we'll look at some of the worst, and then we'll save our #1s for the very end. So I guess I'll kick it off with all my honorable mentions. I have a lot. I had an original list. Well, my original list was like 75 movies. Whittled that down to about 40, and then it was kind of hard going. So I just listed them alphabetically. So these would have been my 26 through 40, somewhere along the way. A Separation, that one killed me to cut. August Osage County, Avengers Endgame, Boyhood, Cavalry, did not make the cut. I know. Deadpool, Gone Girl, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Hunger Games, Inside Out, Love, Simon, Mad Max Fury Road, Moonrise Kingdom, Room, and Spotlight.
Wow.
Those are some heavy hitters.
That's the kind of list we're making.
Absolutely.
Heavy
That's
hitters.
a top 10 list for
But
somebody right there.
but they all got cut. They all got cut. Yeah, I mean, I took this list, and we'll get to your guys' honorable mentions in a second, but I arrived at my list basically as a mixture of like how I graded them when they were released, and then just basically looking back on the decade and seeing what stuck with me, What movies I go back to mentally, or what movies I go rewatch, or tell people about, or whatever. So there's ones on my list that got A's or A minuses when we originally reviewed them, but yet, looking back at the decade, they're among my favorites. So Justin, let's hear your honorable mentions for the best.
Okay, my list is probably going to be the shortest because I wanted to keep this moving to the best of my abilities. I've only got 4, but
Okay.
all
I
fantastic
bet they're all
movies
heavy hitters.
and definitely worth watching. Searching for Sugar Man,
Okay.
Her,
Oh.
The Handmaiden, and the follow-up to a Film Fanatics favorite, The Act of Killing, The Look of Silence.
I loved The Act of Killing. I
Do
did.
you
That was a great movie. The movie.
I know.
The movie. Joe, what are your honorables?
Well, this was also tough, so if I was going to list all my honorables, it would just be a whole nother list. So
right.
I'm just going to pick a
Yeah.
couple that haven't really been mentioned. How to Train Your Dragon,
Oh, okay.
Megamind,
Okay,
Tangled, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol,
good choice.
It's a good one.
and these ones hurt too, Fury, and
Oh,
Kingsman.
okay.
Nice, yeah.
All good choices.
Yeah, all good
These
choices.
are hard lists.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the movies that got cut.
Like I've been telling him for a while, like
Um,
this was a very difficult list to
Yeah,
make.
this was not easy.
I just finalized mine today because I was really just holding off on it. I didn't want to make those cuts.
I actually forgot because I had before the show we talked about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I checked. You said you got your 25 done, and I realized I had mine. But I said, I haven't actually put them in order yet.
Oh no!
So the real hard
What do I do with
A
this?
whole nother step.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do our favorites from 25 through 11. We're going to save our top 10 till after we get through the dreck of worst of the year. Or of the decade, I should say. So we start with my number 25, La La Land, from 2016. This was just a really shot out of left field, and then it got all the awards love, and it really kind of was, I think, just about as good as everybody thought it was. Number 24 for me is 50-50 from 2011.
Yeah, definitely.
And here's one that, again, like this probably in the year-end list made maybe number 10 or 12 or something, but it really sticks with you, the blending of the comedy and drama, and a real surprise, and one that doesn't get talked about enough. So I wanted to bring some love to that. Number 23 is the one that was my favorite of 2016, Sing Street. Not quite as high on the list as one other one from 2016, but great music, great coming of age story. We all love Sing Street. Number 22 for me is Whiplash from 2014. Just blew me away. You guys both had it higher on your year-end list than I did, so I'm curious to see if it appears on either of your best of the decade list. But that's one definitely sticks with you. One that I go back to. Number 21 is another 2011 movie that was sort of out of left field, and that's Drive. Ryan
definitely.
Gosling, just amazing tour de force performance. One of the great Ryan Gosling should have been nominated roles.
Mhm.
Many people should have been nominated in that movie. Albert Brooks,
Yeah.
probably. Number 20, this one actually did get a lot of nods. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri from 2017. Thought this was just a great performance from Rockwell, great performance from, what's-her-face from Fargo.
Frances McDormand, yeah.
McDormand, yeah.
McDormand, yeah.
And just a really haunting movie. A lot of these movies on my list are sort of in that haunting vein of like intense, really kind of sticks with you. Maybe not in a good way necessarily.
It's a very provoking movie.
It's a
Yeah.
very provoking movie. That's a good way to put it. Number 19 was also from the same year, and that is Get Out. I thought that was a really, really good thriller. It's the only sort of thriller I have on my list. My list is very diverse, as usually I tend to go to comedies. We haven't really had too much of that yet on my list, but this is the one sort of thriller that's on my list. I thought Jordan Peele did a great job with it. Much better than Us from last year, which was okay, but I thought that deserved a spot. Number 18 for me, this one actually hurt for me to put down so low, Argo from 2012.
Oh, yeah.
Love that movie.
Yeah, seriously.
And that's one that people have been talking about for pretty much the entirety of the decade.
Yeah.
A lot of love, for Ben Affleck and his work, and yeah, just there's another one that's it's haunting in sort of a different way as Three Billboards, but just the fact that it's based on a true story and these guys could have lived or died, if things were a little bit with it, if things were a little bit differently. Number 17 is my one and only 2019 appearance on my list, and that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There are two movies that I've graded better this year, and that was The Farewell and Knives Out, both great movies, but in terms of sheer magnitude and scope of the directing and the script, and I think the rewatchability factor, this one rates higher for me in all of those regards. Great performances as well from the three leads. And my only Tarantino entrance. My original list did have Django on it as well as a possibility, but I cut that one fairly early. Number 16 for me was my number one of 2017, Baby Driver. And that's my final appearance from 2017 on my list. Great movie. Haven't watched it again since all the Kevin Spacey stuff, but I feel like it would still hold up. I mean, I've seen House of Cards since all that stuff, and it didn't really affect me. But great cast. I mean, Ham, Jamie Foxx, Ansel Elgort was great in it, who was sort of a kind of a throwaway, I think, before that. Number 15... This was my number one of 2018, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is my one comic book movie on the list. As you noticed in my honorable mentions, there were several, Deadpool and Guardians. But this, to me, sort of outranks them all. Just brilliant in every single way. Totally a visual masterpiece. A lot of good things with that. Joe approves. Number 14 for me was The Martian. This one actually kind of surprised me. It was up so high, but this is one that's really stuck with me. I saw it 3 times in theaters. Damon is excellent, and even all the side characters that are barely in it, either on the other ship or at home with Jeff Daniels and Kristen Wiig and Donald Glover. I mean, everybody put 110 into this, and Ridley Scott. What a guy.
Yeah.
I think we can agree he's been hit or miss in the decade.
No, it's true.
But for me, The Martian was his pinnacle there. Number 13 from 2016, Hidden Figures. I love this movie. This was an A- actually when we originally did it on the show, and I've since seen it probably about 5 times.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I mean, the performances, and it's really such a feel-good movie. I read an article recently about how all of this year's Oscar movies are real downers. And since I've seen Joker and Marriage Story in the last 48 hours, I can attest to that. But, this one got a nomination for Best Picture back in the day, and it just, I think, maybe it wasn't a masterpiece of a movie. Did it have the cinematography value of a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or a La La Land? No. But it stuck with me. My number 12 is my lone documentary, and that is, Justin mentioned it in his honorables, Searching for Sugar Man. This movie came out in 2012, and I watched it and liked it, and then we watched it again for Film Fanatics, and literally never stopped talking about it since then. For a documentary, I mean, the story is so compelling of finding this musician who has sort of been lost to the ether, except for in this one island nation or whatever. And it's crazy to me. I mean, you couldn't script a movie like this. It's so compelling. And then, last one I'm going to mention before we move on is my number 11, American Hustle from 2013.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talk about a masterclass in acting.
Yep.
The 4 leads are amazing. Amy Adams, Bradley Cooper, Lawrence, and one of my lesser favorite people, Christian Bale, but even he is great in this.
Good job.
And David O. Russell, of course, one of my favorite directors out there. So had to include American Hustle on the list. I had to. I mean, come on. Very high up there. So that's the initial part of my first list. We have not heard either of your guesses for my number 1, The Descendants or Toy Story 3, so
Still in the running.
we'll see what that means.
It's killing me.
Justin, let's go to you and hear about some of your favorite movies of the decade.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I think your list will be
Interesting.
the most interesting.
Definitely.
Because
Definitely will.
You definitely. I mean, obviously, as you could tell, other than like Sugar Man and maybe one other movie, my list is fairly straightforward.
We got the indie
You know,
guy here.
big hits.
He'll
But
be pulling out some
Justin,
secret
I
ones.
think will pull out maybe some foreigns and some docs.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I tried to diversify.
God,
Um,
Separation killed me, by the way, to cut.
Yeah.
That one foreign movie that I really, really almost made the cut.
I'm actually shocked it's not in your list.
I
but-
was shocked as well. It was the very last one I cut.
All right, well, let's kick this off with number 25. It is 2016's A Silent Voice. There's a lot I have wanted to say about this movie for a long, long time, and if I get it all out now, this podcast is going to be 5 hours long. So, to summarize it in just a few sentences, I feel like the reason this movie makes my list is it's really something that I think this generation needs. It addresses what it means to make up for past mistakes, what it means to find redemption, and not make it something that's easily attained. It's brutal, but it's also realistic and heartfelt at times.
This is a
And-
documentary?
No, this is
It's a movie.
This is an animated movie. Yep,
Oh, it's an animated movie.
it
Okay.
is. It is. And
I haven't heard of well, I've heard of it, I
I
guess.
don't think
but
I saw it.
I definitely didn't see it.
I highly, highly recommend it.
I guess so.
Definitely.
Best in the decade.
Yeah, I have to
Indeed,
check it out.
indeed. Number 24 is one that we saw on Dan's list, so
Oh.
here's hoping we got
Oh,
the
let's
first one
see.
going all the way around, and that is 2015's The Martian. I think there's something
What a movie.
beautiful about finding our finest hours in our darkest times, and I think it's really reflective of the latter half of the decade, and that's only sort of perpetuated by Matt Damon just going all out in this performance. That's both.
And you're not much of a Damon fan.
I am not, and
Like
he
me and
absolutely
Christian
rocked
Bale.
it. And he somehow finds this really brilliant line between very, very tense and in other moments absolutely rip-roaringly hysterical.
Mhm.
No, it is not a comedy
I think
Golden
it's-
Globes,
I think
but
it's realistic, though.
yes, it is very realistic.
Yeah, I think we find humor in those sort of hard moments.
Yes, and also the idea of there needs to be compromise. There needs to be ways to sort of work together if we're going to try and make progress.
And
that's-
Chastain.
And of course, Chastain being Chastain.
Yep.
So, great cast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number 23 is a movie that we came across on Film Fanatics almost by happenstance, and it has stuck with me as the years have gone by. It is 2014's Song of the South. Nope, Sea.
I was like, what? Song of the
Oh,
South?
well, that's wrong here.
Song of the Sea. I remember doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Good old Brendan Gleeson, right, Joe?
That's right.
It's, I just really love this animation studio's ability to sync gorgeous, gorgeous animation
They're pretty.
with absolutely brilliant and original storytelling.
This is the studio that did Kells?
The Kells.
Kells,
Okay.
and also Oscar-nominated The Breadwinner much later, which is
Okay.
by far their darkest movie, but
I didn't see that
Song of
one.
the Sea has definitely got the leg up on the best of the bunch.
Okay.
Just really well constructed, really good storytelling. It's just hypnotic how this movie came together. Number 22 is 2018 Spike Lee's Black Klansman.
Good movie.
I mean, sometimes Spike Lee can be a little too on the nose, but this just finds a brilliant balance between hard-hitting but also able to be digested, and absolutely phenomenal performances by John David Washington and Adam Driver. I thought it was,
Adam Driver's so good in this.
yeah, and I think it's only a matter of time before Washington ends up trumping his old man. Feel forgive the word choice, but
Wait, oh, Denzel.
yeah.
I had to think who the last name was. Washington.
Ooh.
I don't know if I knew that. Okay.
No, just really, really well put together and very thought-provoking, and really makes you think about where we are in the here and now. Number 21 is one that we did not review on Film Fanatics, but privately was mentioned on my Facebook, and that is 2016's My Life as a Zucchini. This is a very, very unusual movie, but I find that it's got a lot. It covers a lot of ground in very little time, and managed to make characters both quirky, believable, and also very real in very unusual ways.
Animated as well, right?
Also,
A lot of animated on Justin's.
yeah, we're only moving.
No
up.
Disney though. No Tangled. I noticed.
No Tangles. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
My movie.
Well, 20 is definitely not animated, and that is 2012's The Cabin in the Woods.
I do like the cat.
I think horror kind of got a bad rap for a long time of like, okay, we got a shoestring budget, we can just throw together a bunch of cheap jump scares and we got a movie. Cabin in the Woods said, you know what, let's try and do something original. I really, really like that. I know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, maybe it tried a little too hard for the comedy, but I really applauded its originality and its willingness to sort of explore why the genre is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of ways to sort of unpack and rewatch it
No, it's a really good movie.
that I really appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Number 19 is also animated, but it is with good reason.
Frozen.
Sadly, no. Frozen does not debut on this list.
Wow.
And that is 2010's How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said with animation in this decade, but one thing I've got to give this particular franchise credit for is it found a way to put together not one, not two, but 3 solid movies. And for the most part, all of consistent quality, and found a way to sort of keep it going without overstaying its welcome. Cough, cough, Toy Story 4. But
I love Toy Story 4.
Ooh.
But I just really thought this was put together, it knew what it wanted to do, and it found a way to go about it without being super overly cutesy, and just kept a really solid, fresh franchise that I very much appreciate in this day and age.
The first is the best, though.
Oh, the first
I can't
is by
say
far
I
the
can't.
best.
Yeah,
we
like-
can't say it's all consistent quality.
You know how much I feel
second,
about the
third,
second movie?
well, the second would have been
That
great,
trailer.
except for the marketing.
That
We
dark
can all
trailer.
agree with that.
Oh yeah.
That gave away the big
Not the movie.
reveal.
Yeah.
Not the movie.
The movie was great. I wish it.
Two's
got-
dangerously close to being as good as the first one. 3 isn't as good,
Three's
but
not bad,
animation-wise
It
is
was fine.
Did you ever see the first one in 3D?
Yes,
Okay, because I thought the 3D for that was just out of this world.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time.
But yeah, number 18 is Kimiko the Treasure Hunter. This was, I believe, we didn't review it on Film Fanatics, but I did talk about it that year. I just really love how this explores being attached to something and sort of exploring the idea of what does it mean to, what is a relationship to a certain text and how that sort of applies to your perception of reality based around that text. It doesn't really provide a lot of easy answers, and there's a lot of ways you can interpret this movie, but I think the way it's styled and the way that it comes together is interesting and also very surreal in ways that...
This is
You don't-
animated as well?
Nope, not animated,
Oh,
live
okay.
action.
Oh wow.
Number 17 is one that we definitely did review, and that is The Wailing. I've got a soft spot for any horror that actually manages to scare me, and The Wailing absolutely terrified
yeah.
me.
That was a creepy one.
I
That
forgot
is-
about that from the
That is a
name.
scary, scary movie, folks. I usually don't like to admit that because I feel like whenever you mention that, somebody's like, "Oh, I didn't find it that scary." No, I will happily admit, The Wailing is by
It's
far the
pretty
scariest
scary.
thing I've seen in 2010.
Scary.
It's pretty scary, yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one.
it's got some great atmosphere. The storyline is
Well shot,
absolutely
too.
chilling, very, very well shot,
Great
and
lighting in that as well.
managed to pull together a lot of really good scares without necessarily being so jumpy, and that's not an easy feat in this day and age.
Mhm.
Number 16 is one that we definitely did review, and yes, it is animated, but I feel
They're
like
all
you'll be,
this is a whole half animated
I
list.
feel like you'll be okay with this choice though.
All right.
And that is Zootopia from 2016.
I did love Zootopia.
If there's
It's on
gonna
my original 76 list.
if there's gonna be a Disney movie on here, I'm definitely going with the one that's got by far one of the best female characters of the 2010s. Judy Hopps never gets enough
yeah,
love.
Hops is great.
Hopps is great. Jason Bateman is great. The whole setup. even-
I sang his praises plenty when we reviewed it. Yes, I thought he
Yeah.
was great.
There is so
As
much
that
potential. I really, really hope Disney comes back to this franchise. To this.
Well, they
because-
are.
Sequel time, right?
Yeah,
Oh, here's
they've
to hoping.
announced it. I
Yeah.
think.
Ooh, nice.
I don't know if it's real or Disney Plus, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Live action
not that-
Zootopia,
Not,
there we
Disney,
go.
not that Disney Plus isn't real. I didn't mean real life. I just meant theatrically released.
Oh,
No, it's just-
shots
that's
but I
just me
but I
poking fun
believe
at-
they are doing a Zootopia.
Yeah.
Well, why
too,
wouldn't
yeah.
they?
Why wouldn't they?
Right,
Yeah.
Big time.
Print that money as always, like
Yeah.
Disney does.
I mean, we're getting live action remakes all over the place, so why not?
Well, I know.
Too soon for that. people. Let's get a sequel first before live action.
If they did a live
That's
action
CG
Zootopia next year.
Who would freak out? What is?
You thought Cats was
all
weird?
right. Yes, yes, I did.
Oh my.
All right, moving right along. 15 is one that we definitely did review on Film Fanatics and is dear to my heart. 2011's The Artist. There's not much to say about this. I didn't already say
I
it
thought
in the
about
review.
this for his number one. I really did.
Give me a
Makes
little
a lot of
credit, Dan.
sense.
But no, this is just a really good commentary on the era. I think the acting is really well done. It manages to pay homage, but also really make it fresh and original. There's
Brady Bunch style.
Yeah, that I really hope that we see more from everyone involved. Number 14 is one that I'm shocked Dan didn't suggest was going to be my number one, but thank goodness.
Oh, I can't wait.
That is Before Midnight.
I knew there was no way
No.
you could make Before Midnight your number
I'd be
one
so
of the
mad.
decade.
Okay,
I would be
With
livid.
that being said, this is the
I knew it'd be on there though.
This
I mean,
is
let's
the
be
only
real.
Richard Linklater on my list, believe it or not.
Oh, no Boyhood. That
No
means.
Boyhood. Sorry,
Wow.
sorry. That's
That
probably
didn't make my
some
cut either.
honorable mention.
Yeah, that was one of my honorables.
But no, this
Yeah.
this continues the franchise's consistent quality. I think both leads do great in this. I think it's arguably the best installment of the bunch, and
I think it's probably the best one of the bunch.
I know you like the real time part too, but
Well, I love movies in real time. I'll tell you what though, I actually thought about it today while I was watching Marriage Story.
really,
Because
okay.
I mean, Marriage Story is basically a couple discussing the whole movie.
Yeah.
I mean, things happen,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it was reminiscent of that Before series tone. I think.
definitely. But I like the commitment of just everyone involved, which is something that I don't think most studios, most projects nowadays actually manage to pull off. Everyone writes it, everyone works on it, and I think because of that, it really is something that's got a lot of artistic integrity, and that has kept up over the test of time.
What if I said that for your number one? You would have been so mad.
Oh my goodness.
I know you a little better than that.
Yeah. A little older, a little wiser.
Yeah.
Number 13 is what Dan predicted to be my number one.
Darn
That
it!
is 2014's Birdman.
All right, first one cut off the
First
grid.
one cut.
We say goodbye to
Knew
Birdman.
it was gonna be
I'm
on the
wrong.
list.
We hardly knew ye. Great movie, but sadly not my number one.
Okay.
Doesn't make top 10 either.
Yeah.
No.
Tell us why it didn't make
Yeah, you
quite
gotta
top
explain
10.
that one. Birdman, come on.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It's
Obviously, it's great. It's in
it's
your top
great.
25.
It's in my top 25.
Yeah.
It's less that it doesn't deserve it to be there so much as everything above it earned its place so much.
Okay.
Oh,
But I love the long take quality of it. I
Yeah.
love the social commentary. I think a lot of it still very much holds up. And somehow, unlike a lot of movies that did that in the 2010s, Birdman managed to sort of look at popular culture without being particularly insulting about it, which I very much appreciated.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It wasn't completely.
It was
scathing.
definitely a bit satirical and yeah.
Oh, it was definitely satirical.
Yeah.
But a lot of movies of the 2010s that sort of went into the exploration of like, okay, what's popular, kind of made the stance that everything that is mainstream is crap. And Birdman
I suppose that's true.
Birdman
I
doesn't
didn't
really
say that.
didn't really say that.
That's
Like,
what he's saying. It didn't really say
Okay,
that.
good.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
saying it's the exception rather than the rule.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can
It,
appreciate
like,
all of it.
yes, Transformers is not artistic greatness. Sadly, not on anyone's top 25.
No.
Spoilers.
You don't know that.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't gotten to Joe yet.
Joe, you can't put
You're right.
2007's Transformers
There's
on
been,
there.
hey,
Bad.
there's been like 4 Transformers movies this decade.
That is horrifying.
All right, well,
That's
But
the
no,
decade
just
right there.
really well put together and fabulous and absolutely deserved its Academy Award for Best Picture. Number 12 is a documentary, and I'll be curious if you anticipated this one in particular, Dan.
Okay.
It is I Am Not Your Negro from 2016.
I did not. One of my anticipated ones for you was Searching for Sugar Man, so that's already out.
Okay.
That was honorable.
But as far as this one goes, I think it really is a solid reflection of sometimes we're not nearly as far ahead as we think we are. And it's fascinating how much something that's so old still has relevance. And throwing together the brilliant narration from Samuel L. Jackson, who's not shouting.
For once, yeah.
For once. It's just really fascinating how this movie came together in a way that's compelling and interesting and very, very rich and able to be digested in so many different ways.
I thought more than the narration from Jackson, though, was just the clips of Baldwin himself.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, from a talk show or from a speech or whatever. I thought that really held the movie together very well.
Yeah, no, it was just
Yes.
really, really well constructed.
Mm-hmm.
And my number 11 is 2017's Coco.
More
Pixar.
animated.
More animated, but hey, solid Pixar entry. And honestly, it's one of those that I left and I was thinking like, okay, is this going to be one of those movies that's really, really great on the first entry, and you will come back to it in like 2-3 years, and it's just okay. Nope. No, this movie is solid. The music is great. The performances are good. The animation is gorgeous. There is so much to really appreciate about this. It's really kind of bringing me back to the idea that Pixar is so much better when it's trying to come up with original projects rather than trying to call back to a bunch of stuff from 10, 15 years ago. Don't get me wrong.
If you trash Toy Story 4 twice, I'm going to be so mad.
Don't get me wrong. Glad we got Incredibles 2. But I think it's so much more impressive.
Not a
when
Finding
new
Dory
talent-
fan.
Fan service the movie. That's all I gotta say. But no, I think it's really cool when all their new talent really shows what they can do and gives us something new to talk about and something for a whole new generation.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
All right, well, Joe,
Yeah.
we get to you now and hear about all the great comic book and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies of the decade.
The Last Stand. Here we go.
Escape Plan.
Oh, okay.
No, I think your list will be great.
All right. Yes, we are all very different people.
Yes.
Very different.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
Interesting. Well, the first couple I saw very recently,
Ooh, okay.
so I want to put them on there in time. They could be higher, but I had to put them
In time, Joe? Really?
In time. Not in time.
Not the Justin
Justin
Timberlake movie.
No, I was looking over
That is a good movie, though. I can't
No,
deny it.
I didn't hate it.
That was what a reference.
It's not best of the decade, but it's a good movie.
No.
Well, actually, in time. No. My number 25 is one that may have appeared, and it was Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
pretty much what you said, just literally being such a Spider-Man fan, this was like the ultimate love letter to Spider-Man fandom, but also great for new fans. I could see somebody walking in and just getting the best elements of the character, and just the subtle references to comic book creation overall, like animation on a whole new level that they had to create for the movie. It was just spectacular and emotional with the story, and I'm not a huge Miles Morales fan, but this movie made me love the character.
Mm-hmm.
So that says a lot coming from me. I thought they did a fantastic job. May very be the best Spider-Man movie thus far. I loved it.
I think it might be, actually.
And I like the Tom Holland ones. But,
We had a few this decade.
But Spider-Verse is fantastic. Number 24 is another fairly recent one. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I have a feeling with time this might move up, but since I saw it so recently, I'm going to put it on the lower end. But pretty much...
I definitely wanted to include it.
Like, I could have... Part of me wanted to rank this higher, but I couldn't in good conscience yet with all these other films. But just... like the ultimate Tarantino movie in a lot of ways.
I think it takes the best elements of his films and kind of sticks them together, but also the top talent. I mean, he always works with good people.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Brad Pitt is at his best in 10 years. Moneyball aside.
Moneyball aside.
My favorite.
Pitball.
But, I mean, look, I saw Ad Astra this year, too. And to compare the Pitt performances in each movie, it's like apples and oranges.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
I mean, Ad Astra was okay, but but Brad Pitt is just excellent in this movie.
Yeah, no, he's definitely going for it. And so is DiCaprio. So.
Well, I mean, that goes without saying.
But I think this was among one of my favorite DiCaprio performances, and I just thought that the production design and everything with Tarantino transporting us this time, a love letter to it, some good twists, just everything about it was fantastic, and the script was just working on so many levels, that I didn't even pick up on until I talked about it later with a friend on a channel. So I was like, wow, this movie will only get better with time, I think.
And I think, unlike many of his other movies that we could have put on this list from the decade, and you may have one or two higher, knowing you, but this one to me did not ever feel its length. I think Django is too long. I love it, but it's still too long. Hateful Eight is too long.
Absolutely.
And I think Inglourious Basterds maybe is a little too long.
Okay.
But this was like 2 hours and 35 minutes or something, and I didn't feel it.
No, I could echo that. I really think that it definitely felt like a long movie, but I didn't mind.
Yeah.
That's probably how I'd put it. And the stings on the end, the last couple parts with the the commercial and with the song at the end, it was made it a little bit better for me. So just absolutely love this movie. I could see it going much higher in the future. Tarantino is always tough for me to rank in lists.
I almost put Django for your number one. I really did.
No, did you?
We'll see, yeah.
Okay. Well, my number 23 is The Disaster Artist.
Okay.
Because
good one.
in recent, I've always kind of had a love for the whole idea of so bad it's good and campiness, and just kind of exploring what that really means. And just the devotion and passion of independent filmmakers and what they do, and The Room kind of becoming this ironic, iconic piece of pop culture accidentally, and then learning kind of more about that and the echoes and performances with the Franco brothers. I thought this was a great love letter.
Franco's best, I think.
Franco,
definitely.
at Tommy Wiseau, I thought it was fantastic, and I didn't expect to actually be so touched by this subject matter, but I actually felt affected by it in a very personal way, and it actually made me appreciate The Room more, and for what it is. And, and I'm like, wow, that's
everything that goes into.
And I would encourage you, if you haven't seen The Disaster Artist, which is an excellent film, watch The Room with it, and you'll get a whole
It's
new
a really good
perspective.
companion piece.
Yeah.
It's very fun, it's very interesting, and it's got heart, and I really appreciated that.
I thought about that today too, because much like Marriage Story reminded me of the Before series, the other movie I watched today was the Dolomite movie.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a lot about
Very similar.
you know, getting sort of a movie off the ground with no budget, no actors,
And
you know.
I'll confess too, I haven't watched it yet, so I'll spoilers. That's not on my list, but I knew it's kind of about that. I did recently watch Dolomite in preparation.
Really?
So 'cause
Yeah,
I knew about the characters.
I
so.
think I'm gonna watch Dolomite, the original, at some point
And there's
here
other
soon.
films.
Yeah.
They're very interesting. Actually,
Okay.
they might not be what you're expecting. They're fun. But yeah, that was number 23. Number 22. Now, I'm not really. I don't want to say I hate documentaries. I'm not really much of a documentary guy, but sometimes there's a documentary that really sticks with you, especially when it's got a compelling story and a great baseline.
Yep.
And that would be
I knew it.
Searching for Sugar Man,
Yep.
because you guys popped this one in, and I didn't know what to expect, but I was so intrigued by the story, and I did not know where it was going. There was a twist with it because I knew nothing about it, so I was like, "Whoa, this is what's going on here."
Yeah, I mean, we're both music fans. I had never heard of him before this movie.
I like to
Yeah,
think
same.
I have a pretty good ear for things, and I know some more obscure stuff. And his whole story fascinated me, and I
Yeah.
actually went out and sought out some of his music. I did think it was very good, and I like how they kind of wove that into the film
Right.
to really kind of sell you on it. That's most of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But just a really
God, yeah.
fascinating tale.
What good songs.
Great songs, very very touching, and kind of a good ending to the story.
Yeah.
Actually, I could have gone a very different way.
That one got to me through the Oscars.
Yeah.
I had not heard of it, and then it won the Best Documentary that year.
Yeah.
So, because that was before Film Fanatics, so we weren't getting 300
Everything.
movies a year. Yeah. So
Yeah.
good to see that on your list.
Of course. I don't know if that was a surprise or not.
No, I actually thought that might be one of the
My
ones
number
on
one.
everybody's list, but
Aw,
did just barely missed for Justin.
just barely.
Yeah.
But it was an honor.
It was honorable, yeah.
And number 21, because I have to be very serious about my historical pictures, is Lincoln. Because, if
the full Lincoln.
if any man...
Lincoln.
I go the full Lincoln. If any man other than Raymond Massey could sell me on Lincoln, it would be Daniel Day-Lewis.
That is true, yeah.
Just I think about one of the great performances that still stick with me, and I kind of watched some old clips again. I just really thought there were some great speeches, some great drama, and also a really great subject matter to kind of focus on within the movie of Lincoln, about trying to get the bill passed and ratified, and just kind of capturing the politics of the time, but not on the battlefield necessarily.
No.
I think I'm always really appreciating when we see that side of history, and I think they did an excellent job with it.
And one of the true greats as Mary Todd.
As Mary
Yeah.
Todd,
Sally
of
Field.
course, Sally Field.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones was in it as well.
Yeah.
So,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt was there. Just all around great cast.
Yeah.
I mean,
No Massey, but...
No.
I think he wasn't able to attend by that point.
No, I
He was,
think he was
swimming.
long
Yeah,
dead
I
by
know.
then.
But yes, Raymond Massey also great
No
link.
slouch.
Yeah.
No slouch at all. Number 20, and I'm saying it here this way on the podcast officially for Film Fanatics or whatever.
Oh my.
Okay, it's Edge of Tomorrow, not Live, Die, Repeat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Live Die Repeat's your number 20. Okay.
No. Edge of Tomorrow, when I think about
Great film.
one of my favorite sci-fi action movies, I appreciated how original this one was, how it played with the loops and the time travel. I really liked the technology. I thought Tom Cruise gave one of his best performances of the decade. It was kind of like one of my introductions to Emily Blunt as more of an action star. I thought she did fantastic. They were great together. And Pullman, or Paxton.
Yeah. One of his last roles, really. He
Paxton
died just a few years
as
ago.
the angry drill sergeant guy. One
Yeah.
of his last great performances.
So I guess he won't be in the second one. They're already filming that.
Sadly not.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's a callback or something. But yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. And I really, really am mad that they tried to change the title that was a bad movie. Edge of Tomorrow is just such a cool title.
Yeah.
Why would you
Yes.
do that?
And what's the book called? All You Need Is Kill, right?
Yes.
Which is even worse, I think.
let's
by
just-
leaps
I think
and
that's the
bounds.
worst of the three.
Get past this. But if you haven't seen it and you really like a good sci-fi action movie,
You know,
it's up there, man.
and I want to say something because I don't really think there's any action movies really on my list, other than maybe Spider-Verse, I guess if you count that.
Yeah, kind of.
But I think action is a genre that sort of gets a short shrift in like, well, that's mindless, or that's, you've already mentioned a few. Kingsman was on your list for honorable mention.
I think action movies can be great.
I think
too.
they can be too. I just think a lot of times they fall into a category of
horror.
and you mentioned Mission Impossible too,
Yeah.
which is also not Mission Impossible 2, but Mission Impossible also.
Go
The
with
fifth one I think you mentioned.
Fourth. Fourth.
And I had Hunger Games on mine, which I know get some
I was
mixed
surprised
results,
actually. I thought that might have been hard for you.
it was hard to cut. I think it was a great movie, and that's for all intents and purposes an action movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Partially, at least.
And yeah, so I just wanted to say that because I'm sure there's probably more coming on your list.
What?
But
No.
Whatever do you mean?
I think you
We
have
got-
a good eye for good action movies because I think there's a lot of crap ones out there.
Oh yeah.
There
There
really are.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, makes it easier to see them when they come out there. But my number 19, because, what 25 list would be complete for the decade with something about organized crime, right?
Oh
so,
God, it's you. So of
So,
course there's a
which
so,
one?
So it is my favorite Depp performance of the decade.
Oh, Black Mass.
Black Mass
Yeah.
was a fantastic bio about a very interesting criminal figure that I was surprised was getting some attention, and I was just on the edge of my seat for so many of those scenes. He was really intimidating. I thought he really lost himself in this role, which was so unlike so many things he's done.
Yeah.
And I thought it was well directed, and it was compelling. Really great bio of crime figures.
Yeah.
Thought it was
Good supporting cast too.
great supporting cast
Yeah.
as well. So that was my number 19. My number 18. I don't know if it'll surprise anybody, but I really, really loved this, and I think we needed this one this decade so much for the ladies, but for everyone, for Wonder Woman herself.
Oh. I thought you were gonna say Magic Mike when you said it was for the ladies. I was like, wait, what is
no,
this?
Oh my.
Magic Mike is for everybody.
Wonder Woman is a fantastic movie.
But yeah,
Yes.
when it came to, I'll be honest, you kind of mentioned a lot of superhero movies, and obviously there's going to be some on my list, but it was very hard for me to cut a lot of these superhero movies because there were a lot that I loved. But I really enjoyed Wonder Woman a lot. I did enjoy the style. I enjoyed the action, obviously. And I really liked the characterization they went with her interaction with Chris Pine's character.
Yeah.
But by the way, for those
Great
that don't
duo.
know, Steve Trevor is not an interesting character in the comics, and
He's really not.
through his acting, the writing, directing, they made him very compelling,
Yeah.
and they made him a great foil for her. I thought the usage of World War I was great, and I think that might have helped kind of get more interested in some films that have come out recently.
Yep.
Putting attention to that conflict, I thought they used that well. Also, great supporting cast, a lot of good comedy, great color. It was so great to see a DC film have color in its action sequences and its
Yeah.
background.
At last.
To see a beautiful, flashy comic book movie like DC Comics are supposed to be, and I thought Wonder Woman really got us in the right direction for that, and that is so important to not be like Marvel, but do their own thing.
You mean to tell me Suicide Squad doesn't have great color?
Suicide Squad does have good color. He's not wrong.
Suicide,
I like Suicide Squad better than most.
Suicide Squad has some color, but there were also a lot of ugly, dark backgrounds
Right.
and mindless CGI armies
And horrible stories.
Yes.
and really
Without
bad
question.
Yeah.
writing with the characters and many But
This is the DC pinnacle,
Yeah.
at least
so,
for the decade.
So far
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
yes, I really really enjoyed Wonder Woman, and I'm thinking about watching it again, talking about it. So kind of hints at the theme of my list. So Wonder Woman.
I wanted to rewatch all of these on my list.
So me too.
While I was
Yeah,
making
Me
it.
too.
Definitely.
If I had the time, I would have.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to, and I'll have to check out some of your guys that I haven't seen
Yeah.
if I haven't. But anyway, number 17. I love great science fiction, and I think that when it's compelling, it has a great message and it's thought-provoking, but also it's drama in a really great way, and adds interesting creatures. You have Arrival, which was just, I think,
Yeah.
one of, if not my favorite of that year.
It was your number one that year, yeah.
I was just like so encapsulated by that movie. Amy Adams always does a great job, and I really didn't know her that well before we started doing the podcast, but every movie, she kept surprising me.
I'm a big fan, so I really push her a lot.
And this one was just, oh man, it was heart-wrenching. I think the supporting cast was great for this as well. And I loved just the concept of communication, how important it is, and the idea of communicating with a different species, a different race of beings in a completely different way. How would you do that? And obviously playing with the arrival and how that would affect the world and our perceptions of ourselves, and classic, but done a whole new way. And just the creatures themselves were so truly alien, but they were strange and kind of frightening, but also welcoming. And
yeah, you could see that they were friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I liked that.
From their
to
interactions.
be that strange, but to really be that peaceful and still kind of evoke that fear in everybody.
Yeah.
It was, I thought, very realistic, and just really pulled the heartstrings, and very sad, a very heavy message, but powerful. A very powerful
Great movie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I have no shame putting that on my list, which is kind of weird with the next couple ones here because they're all over the place. But number 16 might make Dan happy. I think Justin will probably be shaking his head, but I come back to this movie so many times.
Oh no.
And I can't stop laughing.
No.
So I couldn't.
Lone Ranger? Don't say it. Say it ain't
Lone
so.
Ranger. No. It's Pop Star. Never stopping. Never
love
stopping.
it. Love it so much.
Love that movie. I've seen it
Brilliant.
probably more than anything else on this list.
Justin hates it.
I know
for
he
those
does.
of you that don't know.
And that's okay. Because
I've seen it since we talked about it.
Yeah.
I still don't like it, but it's...
Hey, it's okay.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
It's all right, man. I don't know. I honestly can't.
It is a brilliant send-up of pop culture and specifically pop music.
I think it is, and
Yeah.
I also like the story, and I like the characters, and I do think it's a pretty good mockumentary. What
That's
can I say?
hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It tickles my funny bone. I can't pretend like it doesn't.
Wow.
I'd be lying if I wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best comedies of the decade.
I would agree.
I had a great time. And also kind of gets me into all their great experiences that I had in the theater, and really being invested in the content with the people around me, and what could really transcend me. And few movies really did that as well as Dragon Ball Z, Fakatsu no F, also known as Frieza Returns.
Wow.
Because-
Okay.
All right, this is the one
What?
that this is a real shock to me.
Real shock.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. It was an
Okay.
absolutely great time. I'm a huge fan of the series, and I thought that this really encapsulated all the best fan service for the fans, which I am. And I will say I have never had a theater experience where people were so engaged in the film.
People were very, very
Yeah.
into this.
And I really
At
liked
what we saw. Yeah.
I really liked that positivity,
agree.
and it was beautifully animated. There was a lot of great humor, and I think it's probably the pinnacle of the theatrically released Dragon Ball movies.
We were just talking
Yeah.
off air earlier about Broly because
Yeah.
I had seen that recently.
And I compared it to Broly.
I was
and I'm
not
like,
much of a fan.
as much a fan, and I thought Broly was fine, but I didn't think it quite reached that. And to be honest, even among fans, some people don't even like this one as much for silly nitpicking reasons. But I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a great time, and it's really stuck with me. So
Wow.
you have to watch it again. And you see a lot of contrast too, once again, because I'm going to shift directions directly. Number 14 was also a tearjerker for me, one that really sticks with me, even though I don't necessarily want to watch it again. It was Still Alice.
Oh, okay.
I thought Still Alice was a very great performance from Julianne Moore, and a very sad film, but I thought that the drama was really affecting for it, and had one of those endings that really just kind of hooked me, you know, incredibly. It really, really stuck with me, and it's one of those ones that I was thinking of that I never truly forgot. So,
Yeah, I'll stick with you.
very, very impactful movie.
Yeah.
Number 13, because I appreciate that people think I know something about action movies, so I don't think anybody will really hate this one. It's number 13 would be John Wick, the first one.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
because I
Wick
think
OG.
you know, kind of, and I've even thought a lot about how much I like the sequels and how much the series has evolved. But there's something about how effective that first movie was that really, really just worked so well, and proving that you could do action, but still really be artsy about it. You could still have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that the fact that it was all done by stunt people kind of brought Keanu Reeves back and showed that he could really be committed, and he obviously loved this
Yeah,
character.
he had been out of it for a while.
A very long time, yeah.
This
Making
kind
a lot of direct-to-videos and all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff.
And this sort of brought him back, and I just think it's phenomenal. And I think that one I honestly thought about consideringly putting the second or third one on the list, but I've always kind of said that for as much as they up the ante, just the simplicity of the story as the motivating factor with the dog, spoilers if you don't know,
Yep.
but that emotional core doesn't quite resonate in the other movies quite as much. Whereas now you just kind of had John Wick doing his thing. That one little thing I thought was really excellent.
I think in the case of the first one, the other big thing we have to take into consideration is no one expected the first movie to be good. The
exactly.
trailers didn't look good. The poster didn't look
No.
good. The reviews come out saying, like, this movie's great, and then people start watching it, it's like, whoa, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And John Wick 2, we know where we're going now. John Wick 3, we definitely know where we're going now. You're right.
It's kind of like Taken in that regard.
Mhm.
Like Liam Neeson thought that was going to be a direct-to-DVD movie,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so he just was like, okay, whatever. My career's kind of stalling. Like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And John Wick is a much better movie than Taken, but
yeah,
but it completely reignited his entire career.
and there was nothing on the foundation, like
Yeah.
you said, Justin.
Yeah.
It kind of did it all by itself.
Yes.
Which I think was much
Yep.
more impressive. So, yeah, John Wick, great action movie. Great movie. Number 12 is one that is from one of my favorite directors, and it came out a bit earlier in the decade, but it still sticks with me because it's just a really fantastically shot film, a lot of great costumes, a lot of great performances from some female actresses, which is why I'm not going to delay it anymore and just say it's Black Swan.
Oh, okay.
Because Black
Good
Swan
choice.
Yeah.
is a fantastic movie, great drama, once again, played a lot with some surreal imagery.
Only the female actresses, though. What about Thomas? He was good.
Toma was good,
Yeah.
but I just...
He was very good and kind of sinister and
Yeah.
in his own way.
Everyone was good. I'm just saying there's
Yes.
a lot of great female stars.
There really
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So I think that people kind of go to that with the Black Swan. So don't think this needs to say anything out there. It's a
All
great
right.
movie.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But my number 11 is one that I think will make people happy, and it's Toy Story 3.
Oh, okay.
This is one that really, really sticks with me still. I had a great time watching it, and I still think it's among my favorite Toy Story movies.
Yeah. A great movie. We'll see if it appears in my number one position, as you guessed. But first, we have to shift gears and talk about the horrible movies of the decade. So we've ranked these from 10 to 1, and I have two different honorable mention categories that I'm just going to basically run down. One is horror, and one is kids' movies, because I feel like in both genres you have sort of almost inevitably bad movies.
Yeah.
Horror movies are notorious for being not good.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are bad are horrible, and then of course there's great ones too. But kids' movies are sort of the same. I mean, a lot of studios will throw together, oh, well, there's sort of cute characters in this movie, kids will eat it up, but they're horrible movies.
Yeah.
So I sort of put them in their own category, and my top 10 is made up of more adult fare.
Okay.
So I just, by year, I guess, going from recent to least. Honorable mention for the horror: 47 Meters Down Uncaged, The Curse of La Llorona, Slender Man, The Bye-Bye Man, The Darkness, The Forest, The Pyramid, The Apparition, Chernobyl Diaries, The Dream House, My Soul to Take, Shark Night, and of course, The Box. Those are all the horror movies I gave Fs to in this decade.
Wow.
And then the kids' movies, I don't have as many Fs, but still, there's a lot to talk about. Show Dogs, which is the live-action Will Arnett, Shaquille O'Neal movie that came out last year with the talking dogs. The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature.
Not the first one.
The Wildlife, Norm of the North, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, of course,
Naturally.
Walking with Dinosaurs, and Hoodwinked 2, Hood versus Evil. All horrible, horrible. Those are all the kids' movies I gave Fs to in this decade. So my top 10 worst, we'll start at number 10 with Getaway, the Ethan Hawke.
That's bad.
What was the girl?
Selena Gomez. Yep.
Movie. No plot, some okay action sequences, I guess, but horrible. Number 9, it was one that Joe didn't ever get to see, but Justin and I just loved together, and that is Nicolas Cage starring in Left Behind.
Oh.
The
So
2014
gloriously
remake featuring Rayford Steele, Left Behind. Horrible. Number 8, Gotti.
Oh.
The John Travolta classic 0%er on Rotten
I
Tomatoes.
wanted to see it.
2018's finest there. Joe, you never did get to see that,
I
did
wanted
you?
to see Gotti, yeah.
Well, you honestly should. It's horrible.
Great, thank you.
It's so
Looking forward to
bad.
it.
Number 7, I went between 2 different sequels
Oh.
from 2015. One was Paul Blart 2 Mall Cop. But I expected less from that one. So the one I went with was Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
That was pretty
That
Because the
one's
first
bad.
one was so good.
Yeah, the first one's
And
funny.
the second one is just a complete misfire.
It's pretty awful.
Number 6, I think Justin will approve. Maybe do a jig, I'm not sure. And that is 50 Shades Darker. I will defend 50 Shades of Grey till my grave. It was a fine movie. 50 Shades Darker is awful. It's completely unnecessary. It makes you just hate basically everything he didn't like about the first one, they just amped up in the second
Yeah.
one. So that makes my number 6. Number 5, Holmes and Watson. Did either of you end up ever seeing that?
Nope.
So bad. Will Ferrell and
Seen
John
that.
C. Reilly at their worst. Number 4 is the infamous Spring Breakers from
I have a feeling
2013.
this is going to make a cameo.
Hate.
They weren't fun.
James Franco's worst. Although I also gave Your Highness an F this decade with James Franco. But this was another Selena Gomez jam from the same year as Getaway, and yeah, just horrible. And number 3, Transformers: The Last Night. I did a whole podcast about how awful this movie is, so no need to say anything more. Number 2, I chose not only because it's horrible, but because of all the massive talent involved with it, and that is Movie 43.
It's
This
bad.
is a sketch movie, basically. And I mean, the names in this are, you've got Richard Gere, you've got is Natalie Portman in it, maybe? There's like all these A-listers. Kate Winslet is in
Hugh Jackman,
it.
Emma Stone.
Oh, that's right, Hugh Jackman's in it, yeah. Like all these big-time A-listers, and it's just horribly unfunny and just not good. And that's where we'll leave it, because we're going to keep our number ones for the wrap-up. Justin, how about your least favorite movies of the decade?
Okay. Well, I've only got 2 dishonorable mentions for this one, and that is the Film Fanatics' darling Sabotage from 2014, and
Oof, yeah.
50 Shades Darker. Yes, a terrible movie. No, sadly, did not make the bottom 10 of the decade.
Okay.
So, topping it off at
Curious.
number 10 is Transformers: The Last Night, courtesy of 2017.
Horrible.
The Transformers franchise is bad. Somehow Michael Bay found a way to take an already low bar and somehow plummet it all the way into the earth and into the Earth's core. I don't know how he
Pointless
managed.
movie.
Pointless, plot holes aplenty,
So long.
overlong,
Mhm.
could easily knock an hour off of it. It's just so bad on so many levels for so many reasons. Number 9 is one of the worst remakes I have ever seen, 2010's Clash of the Titans.
Oh, I didn't see it.
This movie had probably the easiest job imaginable.
And that was the second, right? Because they did Wrath, or was Wrath the
Wrath
second?
is the second.
one.
Oh, got it, okay.
Yeah. Which is better, but still not good.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. This movie had like the easiest job ever. Just make a simple B movie with decent effects. And somehow still manages to mess it up on a ginormous scale. The visual effects are horrible. They reuse action sequences.
Well, and this came sort of right at the height of like the 3D,
Uh-huh.
right when like Avatar had hit and Alice in Wonderland, and so I'm sure, again I didn't see it, but I'm sure like a lot of their mindset was like, oh well, these
We'll just
effects will
amp
look
this
good
up.
in 3D or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
And no, it actually looks worse in 3D. It's a train wreck. The sequel is an improvement, but that's a very, very D+ is not a good movie make.
Okay,
Right. Number 8 is one of Wes Craven's final movies, My Soul to Take, courtesy of 2010.
Ooh,
This
bad.
movie hurt me, because although it was also trying to hype up the 3D, for basically no reason. There's
Yeah. Oh, horror was big in the 3D game back in the early teens. Yeah.
there's like 2 3D sequences, but they tried to pitch this as like a Stand By Me as a slasher film, and I was kind of on board with that. This movie is not that. This movie is awkward. It is confusing. It feels like 4 different movies that don't come together. It's just horrible on so many levels. Number 7 is the movie everybody trashed from 2017, and with very, very good reason, the Emoji Movie.
You'll notice that was not on my failed kids movies list. I gave that a D, everybody.
Wow.
I think I got 2 laughs out of that movie.
I just said no, I'm not going to see it.
Yeah.
You were probably better off, to be honest with you. The message is horrible. T.J. Miller, let's be realistic, he is not a leading man, and with very good reason, he does not have range.
How about Stewart?
Stewart
That's poop.
is... That's
Sir
all you
Patrick
need to
Stewart.
know about this movie.
Sir
Patrick
Poop.
Stewart plays poop. It's just awful.
Also
and,
starring in the Oz Return to Oz movie.
That's the tree
Yes.
Patrick
thing.
Stewart,
yes.
yeah, boy.
Oh, man.
and somehow both complete and utter train wrecks. Number 6 is the other movie everybody trashed, this time from 2010, The Last Airbender. There's nothing that can be said about this movie that hasn't been said.
Ooh, that movie did suck.
Yes, very much so, and also hyped up its 3D
Yeah.
poster version. And let me tell you, I saw it in 3D, and it was... I thought I was going to get nausea. It's
Wow.
horrible in 2D alone, but so much worse in 3D. Number 5 is movie 43 from 2013.
So bad.
Awful on every possible level. Talent
What
is
cast?
wasted. The jokes aren't funny. The setups aren't funny.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's just barely a movie. It's bad proof of concept. Yeah. And there's only so much more I can say about that. Number 4 is a movie that I'm ashamed to admit that I've seen, and God, do I wish I could unsee. 2011's The Human Centipede 2 full sequence.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I have never seen a Human Centipede movie.
You-
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't need to.
It's all right.
None of them are good. The first one is the least bad. But,
Well, that stands to reason.
yeah. 2 poses the question of, is bigger better? My answer, no. It's also plot hole written. It's ugly. It is not well acted. It is excruciating to watch on every possible angle. It's just suffocating, to put it bluntly. Number 3 is the Tyler Perry classic, Temptation: Confessions of a Marriage Counselor.
Oh, I thought it would be a Medea.
No.
Okay.
He has got a nice heart.
This one I've got to give points for. Not only is everyone in the cast unlikable and kind of a horrible person, but the super beyond sexist message that's more or less, hey, go kowtow to your man is like, do you know what decade
Don't forget
you're
the
living in?
AIDS.
And the AIDS.
That was
Yes.
when Perry, all the Perry movies, somebody had to get AIDS.
Yes, somebody has.
That was that era.
Yeah.
For colored girls, AIDS.
Yep.
Temptation, AIDS.
Yes. Like, Tyler Perry seems to think that, like, R rating shows off his maturity and his sophistication. No, this movie
Yeah, it's
is awful.
You should just act.
Yeah, just, like, I don't know.
His role
Tell
in
a
Gone
good
Girl was
movie.
great.
Girl was fine.
Yeah. Star Trek.
He can act.
It's fine.
I don't know why he doesn't know how to write a good
Yeah,
movie, but
it's a
this
shame.
is
Just act.
probably the,
Well, I could say the same about Seth MacFarlane, though.
yeah.
I think
with-
his acting is much better than his writing, for sure.
Yeah, I can see
You
that.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. And number 2, weirdly enough, not my number 1, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's
So
Return.
bad.
This movie is a nightmare.
Yep.
It is ugly. The songs are awful.
Oh my god, the songs
The
are terrible.
acting is abysmal.
Yeah.
Everything about this is disgusting, and the fact that they funded it through Oz fans is
It's a slap in the
atrocious.
face.
It is a complete slap in
Yeah.
the face. This movie should be like a poster child for like, we should never make anything like this caliber ever again.
All right.
But-
Well, we'll hear about your number 1 worst before too long. First,
Yep.
did Sabotage make Joe's list?
Wait.
Dare we find out?
All right. Well,
Let's hear your honorables.
first of all,
Dishonorables, as Justin calls them.
yeah,
Yes.
dishonorables. Well, all right. First of all, I'm going to put this one out there because I guess it's not technically a terrible movie. It's just ripping off a much better movie, but that's Spike Lee's Old Boy, which is like one of the most pointless things ever
Alright,
made.
you love the original Old Boy.
So that's a dishonorable
That's
mention
fair.
from me. The rest of them are ones that I really don't like, but I got a laugh out of, so I can't really put them in the
Okay.
top 10. All right. First one will be Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Horrible.
Horrible
Oh, wow.
movie. Great laughs though. Great time. Sucker Punch. Terrible movie, but
Yeah.
ham does rhyme with band. So
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
I would not. I would definitely not say that's like the worst of the.
Oh,
ten.
no.
It's
That's-
bad.
that's
but
that's
it's
why
yeah.
that's why I didn't put it
Yeah,
up
for
there.
sure.
And then also another one I really hated was the Thing prequel, The Thing,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
I thought was terrible. And another one that I considered putting higher actually in the list, but there's just too many good memories about it. It's I, Frankenstein. You know?
Oh yeah, so bad.
So bad, but it's
So
Adam.
bad.
It's so bad.
Hi,
that
Adam.
It's kind of good. It's kind of Adam.
Yeah.
All right, getting into the list though. Oh, they hate these. Number 10 was The Pyramid, which was.
So yeah, you heard it in my list of the F
Yeah.
horrors.
I forgot about it, but then I remembered like them getting attacked by the CGI. What was
Mummy
he?
thing. No.
It was like a jackal or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, not a mummy.
Like wow, this then all the disappearing and this,
So
just-
bad.
Yeah.
So dark. I was just
Oh,
that
yeah.
was rough. Number 9 is one of the worst superhero movies ever made, if not the worst. It's Fantastic Four.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Oh
2015.
boy, I forgot about that terrible. That probably would have been in my top 10. I
That-
forgot that thing existed.
I did not.
Yeah,
talking about
Fan
it,
Four
I
Stick.
hate that movie.
God, that movie was rough.
So much.
Yeah.
Number 8, I recently, not fairly recently, got the pleasure of watching all the movies of a certain franchise, so I can't put them all on here. But I'm gonna say that Twilight movie Eclipse was gonna stand in.
Oh,
I really did not find any joy watching the Twilight
that's
movies.
fair. I've only ever seen the first one,
They get gradually.
and it was like
Yeah.
okay, but it was bad enough that I never
I-
wanted to see a
I
different
actually
one. So.
think they kind of gradually get worse, and there's elements I liked, but I'm just gonna say smack in the middle.
Okay.
That franchise is as bad as people think.
Yeah.
Number 7, you guys kind of sold me on a little bit because I was thinking, well, this one still holds its place, but you know what? At least that one, there was some humor. There were some good moments, and it actually had a plot that made a little more sense. So instead of Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, I'm actually going to go Transformers 5.
Oh yeah.
Because I hate that movie
Oh yeah.
so much. It
It's
infuriates
painful.
me. It is painful. Number 6 is the greatest movie ever made by a certain guy, but not really. It's Sabotage.
Ugh. I knew it.
And I will say I was actually looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
The trailers fooled me. I thought this might be a competent.
We went
thriller.
at the midnight
And
showing or whatever. of
I
this.
was hyped because I'm a big Schwarzenegger fan. I
Yeah.
like him doing something kind of more dramatic. And the first maybe few minutes of the movie, I'm like, I think this is going to be good. And I've never seen a movie just gradually get so worse, but it's like so smooth, and then it just descends. into
Remember
the
one
worst.
time I literally couldn't stop laughing
Well,
at the one part
we
because it was so horrible.
We looked at each other and we were like,
It was
is this,
when they
we were
started
talking,
making out, right?
We
Yeah.
were like, is this a bad movie? And, and like realized, wow, we got tricked into feeling we were watching a real movie.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
actually horrible.
Yeah.
And I guess that's amazing.
They
but
started
that's-
making out with zero pretext,
Yes.
and-
zero character
and
development.
The scene where they just, in the middle of a gunfight, Schwarzenegger and the one later, like,
Yeah.
I love you, I always have. When did this happen?
Yeah.
When was this
they
alluded
were,
from
to?
they
another
were
movie?
trying to make her happen too. She
Yeah.
was the gal in Flight. She was in like 3 or 4 movies within a few years, and none of them hit.
Sabotage was
Yeah.
rough. Number 5, man, I forgot about it until we started doing this list, but that Wizard of Oz movie
Dorothy
Oh,
Return to Oz.
was just despicable.
Yeah.
It was
On every level.
Yep.
despicable.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it was terrible. Yeah, my number... Wait, did I miss a thing?
That was 5.
That was 5.
Do these count as movies that are on all of our lists? Because they are, but they're not best of.
I'd say let's keep two best of.
yeah, Return to Oz, I think, was pretty obvious
Yeah.
that it would be on everybody's list.
Yeah, but yeah, my number 4 is actually Revenge of the Fallen. I fooled you guys.
Wow, that's on there
I
too?
still hate it. I still actually.
Wow.
It's a bad movie. I'm not gonna
2
front.
Transformers
and,
movies.
and that's because the reason why I actually keep that one higher is because I was thinking about it. Transformers 5, as bad as it is, at least it wasn't quite as blatantly racist.
2's the
Yeah.
only one I haven't seen, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah, two. I'm surprised they got away with some of the stuff I did.
Okay.
But number 3, this was tough because there's a certain actor that has had many great appearances in Film Fanatics for great films, mediocre films, terrible films. But I think Kevin Costner's worst of the decade.
Wait. Okay.
Criminal.
Hold on. What did you say?
Criminal.
Is that the one with Ryan Reynolds?
Yep.
No,
It's got to be Criminal. Or is it 3 Days to Kill?
It was Criminal.
Criminal. That was so bad.
I thought about 3 Days to Kill.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Criminal's worse. You're correct.
Criminal. They made the character
Mm.
like despicable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
he's a
terrible.
horrible person.
Yeah.
He's a horrible person. Were they trying to root for him at the end? And I'm like, I don't
No.
get it. Though Selfless, I think, is the Brian Reynolds you're thinking of.
Yeah.
I considered
No.
that.
Oh, that's okay.
I hated Selfless
You're right.
too. actually.
Costner's in that, right?
Is he?
Okay.
I think he's in both.
Wow. Well, if he, those are. Oh.
Wait, Criminal's where he blows up the oil tanker or something, right?
He's being chased by the cops at the end, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's in another guy's.
That was awful. Yeah.
yeah.
There, I don't even.
You're right. Selfless was the one I was thinking of
I
because of
think he
Ryan
was-
Reynolds, but I remember Criminal now too.
Mm.
That's one where he screams real
Yeah.
horribly. Yeah.
Come get me.
Okay.
Number two. Number 2 is so bad. Just the visuals alone are horrible. Gods of Egypt was terrible.
I was wondering if somebody was going to have either Gods of Egypt or Pompeii on their list.
I thought about Pompeii,
because
but
those are both
I enjoyed.
just abominations.
I enjoyed
Pompeii's kind of
more.
a gloriously bad movie. though.
I guess.
There were,
yeah.
there were some good moments kind of in Pompeii. I had some fun watching it. I didn't have any fun.
Gods of Egypt was rough.
Yes, that's my number 2.
Is my boy Christian Bale in that movie? What was the one he was in?
That
That was whitewashed.
I thought about Exodus Gods.
Exodus.
Oh, yeah.
Exodus
Yeah.
Gods.
But I thought that
Love
was like at
Monsters.
least a better shot. In
Yeah.
the movie,
Yeah.
But it was also pretty bad.
All right, you're not wrong. All right, well let's do our top 10s here. These are we're gonna do 10 through 2, and then go back to our number 1 worst. But these are the cream of the crop, best of the best. I think my list will probably surprise nobody.
Okay.
We start with number 10. This actually I'm wrong. I think number 10 is gonna surprise people,
Uh-huh.
and that is 2008's A Star Is Born.
What?
I really honed in on originality on this list. This is probably the one that's the least original because it's a remake of, 2 other movies. But some of my things are also from books, and so maybe that makes it less original as well. But I thought this movie was brilliant in every way, fantastic. I've never seen The Other Stars Is Born, so I can't compare and contrast. But this one for me hit on all levels. Number 9 for me is my number 1 of 2011. I would say it's the only full-out, broad comedy on my list, and that is Bridesmaids. I think some of my movies have some comedy elements, but for the most part they're more dramatic. But this to me was the comedy of the decade. Still holds up. As you know, we watched it probably not even 3 years ago. And Joe, for your first time.
Yeah.
And that was probably my 10th or 12th time. Still holds up, and certainly a breakthrough performance from Melissa McCarthy. Number 8 for me is one that was mentioned on Joe's list previously, and that is 2010's Black Swan.
Ah, yeah.
This movie is brilliant. It was the first Aronofsky film I'd actually ever seen, so I didn't quite know what I was getting into. I didn't quite know his very original style.
Mhm.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, aka Mother. But this really just was a cut above most things that I had ever seen. It was just so original, and I agree with Joe. The acting here is top notch.
Oh yeah.
But the directing really
Just
is
how it's all
Yeah.
put
Hits it
together is
home.
just so beautiful.
yeah. Number 7 for me was my number 1 film of 2013. One that sort of edged my decision to try and go into a movie without knowing anything about it. The other thing that nudged me was things like the How to Train Your Dragon 2 preview, where I was like, okay, well now you've spoiled the movie for me.
Yeah.
But I went to see this, I believe with you, Justin, and didn't know anything about it except a couple of the people in it, and that is Mud.
I had a feeling.
This movie, it just blew me away, and it's one that, look, it's maybe not a perfect movie, but I think it does so many things right. It was the first one probably that I had seen of the McConaissance, because it was before Magic Mike, it was before
Yep.
Bernie.
Dallas Buyers Club.
It was a couple years before Dallas Buyers Club. So, I mean, for Matthew McConaughey, for me at that point in time was like, well, that horrible Fool's Gold movie and the horrible, the other Kate Hudson one's okay, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
I kind of like that one.
Yeah, that was okay. But what was the other? Failure to Launch, like all these horrible rom-coms. And so I had zero expectations, other than I like Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
But talk about coming of age, talk about these great kid actors, the youngest who went on to do Ready Player One and a couple other movies. But Mud still holds up for me. My number 6 was someone's choice for my number 1 of the decade, and that was my number 1 film of 2010, Toy Story 3. This movie, it fires on all cylinders. Now listen, was it a perfect ending to a perfect trilogy?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And was Toy Story 4 unnecessary? Yes, it was. It doesn't mean Toy Story 4 isn't also a great movie. It's one of my favorites of the year, but Toy Story 3 could not have possibly had a more compelling ending to what is an all A+ series for me, at least for the original trilogy. Crying, laughing, fearing for the lives of my friends,
horrible
toys.
death.
I just... what hasn't been said already about Toy Story 3?
True.
By us or a dozen other people. So my number 5 is Justin's pick for my number 1. You knew it would be on there somewhere, but my number 5 is The Descendants.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's a good choice.
Thank you.
We're
And
both pretty close.
yes, you both were in the top 6. That's pretty good. This was actually, I had said Bridesmaids was my number 1 of 2011. This was in my top 3, I believe, of that year. But I think in terms of sheer filmmaking, this one, gets the edge on Bridesmaids for sure. Rewatchability, maybe not so much, but I've seen it 3 times. It even prompted me to read the book, which does not happen very often. But this is Clooney at his finest. Joe knows he's always Clooney in every movie. But he was his Clooneyest here. And
he went full Clooney.
No argument here.
He did the full Clooney.
Yeah.
But no, just the sheer audacity to have the main character of your story be in a coma and have the action surrounding said character without her ever uttering a word was just brilliant. It is very similar to the book, so I guess we can thank the bookmakers more than the scriptwriter. But talk about drama. It does have some funny parts, notably from the boyfriend of the daughter. But it was also our first introduction theatrically, at least mine, to Shailene Woodley, who's gone on to do many great things and a couple of horrible things.
Divergent.
Divergent was okay. What was the other one? Insurgent.
Yeah.
Was really the worst for me. Number 4, that was my number 1 film of 2014, and we know it as Chef. This is another movie where, now I did see the preview for this a couple of times. I knew Favreau was in it, I knew Downey Jr. was in it, I knew John Leguizamo was in it, but I knew nothing else about it other than he gets a food truck. And this is a movie that sort of was like whispered down the lane for me. I recommended this movie to everyone, and many people I know also recommended it to someone else.
Yeah.
And that person recommended it to someone else. And not one person I ever heard feedback from said, oh yeah, I recommended it to this person and they hated it. Everyone was like, oh my god, thank you for recommending this. They loved it, I loved it.
What a feel-good movie.
It really is. I mean, when I think of, a movie that I can just, watch anytime, it does make you hungry. You don't watch it on an empty stomach. But, it really, this is before, The Jungle Book and before all the Jon Favreau really big budget stuff. I guess he had done, did he do the first Iron Man?
Yeah.
Okay, so he had done Iron Man by this point, so we knew he could direct, certainly. But but that was obviously a much bigger story.
Oh yeah.
This is more down home, just family love. The script is great. So what a movie. Number 3, this was my favorite of 2015. A movie that got so robbed at pretty much every award ceremony, and that is Brooklyn. This
definitely.
is just. Tell me,
I considered it for your number 1.
is that right?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have been wrong. Well, you would have,
I
but
would've
not by
been.
much.
I know.
Yeah.
I was
Number
like,
top 3. Yeah, I mean, this made me fall in love with Saoirse Ronan after kind of a rough start because I don't really like Hannah. When we watched Atonement,
it was a very good movie.
that was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of her earlier stuff, I was like, all right, I don't know. And then, she started doing the Wes Anderson movies,
Mm-hmm.
and then she did Brooklyn, and I was like, okay, now I get it. I'm all in on this girl. Brendan Gleeson's son, Domhnall Gleeson,
Yep.
has a great supporting role in it. I mean, this is also a very feel-good movie, but only in parts.
Yeah.
It's definitely got a lot of hard-hitting realism for the time period.
Mm-hmm.
Immigration stuff, family sort of bond, and just everything was great about that. And my number 2 was actually my number 1 movie of 2012, and that is The Perks. Perks of Being a Wallflower is my favorite book, and Stephen Chbosky, the author of the book, decided I'm going to direct the movie myself and also write the script. And somehow it turned out brilliant.
Yeah.
It seemed effortless for this dude. Emma Watson, really for me, in her first post-Potter role, I mean, maybe I had seen her pop up in something, but she is so great in this movie. And Logan Lerman holds it all together. We see what's his nuts that does the DC movies now as the Flash. Ezra Miller is great.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. It's heartbreaking. It's the most realistic movie I think maybe that's ever been. I mean, I love the John Hughes movies, but they're a little bit sort of cookie cutter, caricature-y. This to me gets high school right more than probably any other movie. Certainly young high school life. I mean, he's in 9th grade, so that sort of whole transition period. It is a masterpiece, and for me, it's my number 2. Alrighty, Justin, let's talk about maybe Moonrise Kingdom.
I hope so.
Somewhere on the list.
Maybe.
Starting with your number 10.
All right, number 10 is one that we came across early on in Film Fanatics. Well, later on, I should say, and that is 2014's Citizen 4. What I like about this is it emphasizes the paranoia, and you're definitely gonna end up looking over your shoulder while you're watching this movie. But it also finds a way to really look at everything with an objective light of, okay, where is the point of realizing something needs to be done? Somebody's got to say something, and it handles that in a very smart way without necessarily telling you must feel this way. And I found that really, really impressive. It's something that's usually one way or the other in terms of outlooks. Number 9 is George Miller's action classic, Mad Max Fury Road.
It was on my honorable. Great movie.
Great movie. Great chase scene. Great action sequences.
Great Charlize.
Great Tom Hardy. Stepping into the boots of Mel Gibson and absolutely rocking it 150%. Still holding out hope for a sequel. Maybe we'll get it in 2020s. But hey, no rush. So if it's as good as this one, it's worth the wait. Number 8 is a movie that I fielded both of you also from 2014, and that is Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
I love the sort of old meets new with this movie. I really like the setup. I found the storyline engaging, the twists unique, and somehow finding a way to really let the performances and the cinematography really weave the story together into a really nice cohesive whole. Number 7 is what was Dan's first choice for the top 25, and that is 2016's La La Land.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably
I knew that'd be up there.
Arguably the best musical of the 2010s. Just fantastic writing, solid chemistry from Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, gorgeous cinematography. This is just...
I suppose it is my highest musical. I think it's the only musical on my list. Right?
I think it's for
Now
me
I have
too.
to look.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Greatest Showman,
Yeah.
but
Oh.
La La Land. Oh well, I mean, I guess A Star Is Born's a musical,
Yeah, that's fair.
less original. Well, and Sing Street. All right, I have a few, I guess.
Yeah.
Never mind, I have a few.
But yeah, no, this is just really well written. It's well constructed. It's original.
Songs are great.
Songs are fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a lot to love about this movie. Number 6 is 2012's The Act of Killing. Probably one of the most fiercely unique documentaries I have ever seen, and probably will ever see. Just somehow finding a way to weave magical realism into a brutally hard-hitting subject
That's
matter.
hard to watch.
It's very hard to watch, but it's absolutely fascinating hearing about all this stuff and how, and also the idea of how these individuals kind of deal with reality after all that. It's
Yeah. I definitely stuck more, I think, to rewatchability on my list, but yeah, you're throwing out some good ones.
it's definitely not something you can just throw on whenever. But
Yeah,
it's-
yeah.
But I got to give it points for being
It's
a movie
haunted.
that,
It's
like,
the only documentary I've ever given an A+ to. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I just left. I still have images from that movie pop into my head here and there. It's like, wow, this was that impactful. But number 5 is the big Oscar winner, Moonlight.
Oh,
Okay.
Absolutely
wow.
brilliant storytelling. What I love about this movie in particular is it is a cohesive whole, but it also feels like an anthology. And every piece feels like a solid short film in and of itself. And I found that just a really captivating way to tell a story. You could watch the first chunk and you feel like you had a beginning, middle, and end. Middle part, same deal. Third part, absolutely. And they're all very good in their own right. But you build up all three and you get a really solid piece of cinematic history. And performances are solid throughout. It's raw. It's realistic. It's believable. It's just a really solid movie. Number 4, surprise to no one, Moonrise Kingdom.
There's Jones. All right. There we go. So nobody's... Well, although that's the highest yet. Number 4 is the highest anyone's picked so far. All right.
Wes Anderson was probably inevitable for this list, but Moonrise is definitely the creme de la creme.
I think it's his best film.
Yep. I liked Isle of Dogs, but it was never going to make my top 25.
No, God, no.
Grand Budapest was fun, but probably more in the honorable mention camp.
Well, I think in this decade or otherwise, I think Moonrise is his best movie.
Yeah. Moonrise, I just really love the straightforwardness of it. And on top of that, I love that there's so many things you can come back to. I've never forgotten the name Sam Shakusky.
Yeah.
And throw in a great Edward Norton performance.
Oh, yeah.
Throw in a lot of the alumni that are really finding...
Yeah, Tilda
Swinton, yes. And just all these little moments that really don't seem like they're going to be these big things, and then leading to some great gags later on. It's just one of those movies that really got me to actually appreciate Wes Anderson as a filmmaker.
Well, and I think, the things I said about Perks and its, realistic nature, I think this movie really gets, it's obviously, sort of outrageous and whatever, but I think it really gets the love of a, 10-year-old,
Yes.
and the emotions. I think it gets it very, very right, even in this sort of more broad comedy sense.
The tone
Absolutely.
kind of hits home,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It finds a way to be quirky, but also in a way that's
It's believable,
in a way that's
Like the
strangely
night they
believable.
spend in the tent together,
Yeah.
it's just it's so realistic to what he would be feeling and doing, and
Yeah. But the other thing I also like about it is it has that kind of like strangely heartbreaking tone, like the idea of, oh hey, we don't want him back, and it's played sort of like a joke, but you're also like, oh wow, that's happening.
That's a little dark,
But you never like feel completely downed about it, and it kind of fulfills you kind of vibe with the overall tone of the movie as it goes along. you're optimistic, but you don't necessarily get overwhelmed by the sadder moments. And I really appreciate that. That was a unexpectedly fun time.
I was very sad to not have this on my list. This is a great movie.
This is a good one.
Number 3 is Asghar Farhadi's fantastic Separation.
What a movie.
Just, if you're looking for raw, brutally honest performances, second to none, absolutely brilliant storytelling, good beginning, middle, and end, poses a lot of really hard-hitting questions, rises up at every occasion, and it never ever drags. This is a long movie, and somehow it makes every second count.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely blown away by this movie in every possible way. I loved much like what the rest of Wes Anderson's stuff in the 2010s. I loved everything else that he did. The Salesman was really good too.
Yeah, I mean, and this was maybe not his first, but it was his first to get a lot of acclaim.
Yeah.
And so I'm the same way. Like for me, it's like I'm pretty hit or miss on foreign movies. But if I hear Asghar Farhadi directed it or wrote it or did whatever to it,
I'm in.
I'll watch it for sure.
Yeah. All very good stuff. I think the lowest thing I've ever given one of his entries was like a B, but
I think B plus for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a solid filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Definitely just intense, soul crushing, but also absolutely captivating. And my number 2, weirdly enough, 2016's Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh God, I should have seen that coming. I forgot about darn Kubo.
How could you forget?
I don't know, because I didn't like it that much. It was okay.
Kubo.
Far and away, like his best entry. Pretty much everything that I said back when we reviewed it at the time is very much alive and well. This movie absolutely holds up on repeat viewings. The animation is gorgeous. The storytelling is phenomenal. The acting's top-notch. Great humor, solid action. And I love the message of this movie. The idea of, okay, how do we change the story? What really guides us on the path that we take, and what do we do about that when we get there? It really makes you think about the whole idea of, is anything really set, or is it something that we sort of decide for ourselves? And that's something that's really bold for an animated movie to tackle, and tackle so openly. It's something I've really appreciated on repeat viewings.
At Blanchett, right? Isn't she the one?
I think it was
Charlize.
Charlize again.
Charlize again.
I should have known that. I knew it was one of your gals. All right, Joe. What do you have from your 10 through 2?
If I can find my.
As an aside, we haven't done the 2019 review yet, but as an aside, Charlize is incredible in Bombshell. I know you haven't seen it yet, but you need to get to it. Her nomination is warranted.
All right, getting through the top 10. I like a good thriller as well, and this gentleman has had a lot of great performances, obviously, but one that really stuck with me and I really loved was Nightcrawler. I thought this was a very devious look at a man kind of making his own way in the world, and showed a real dark side to the power of media.
Yeah, a bit Joker-esque, really.
A bit Joker-esque. I thought it was very timely for the decade, and I also thought, appropriately enough, it was incredibly well shot. I thought Gyllenhaal and Russo were great together.
They were.
And I forget the other gentleman's name. That was his employee.
Like cameraman, yeah.
I thought he was great too, and just dark, cynical, but very interesting, hard hitting. I absolutely love Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Great.
Wow, interesting. That is a surprise.
It really stuck with me. Number 9, though, shouldn't be a surprise to anyone in this room, but I mean, who couldn't just think about the 2010s without just screaming out "Birdman"?
God!
No, really. I mean, pretty much just what Justin said. I mean, fantastic performance from Michael Keaton. Obviously, a lot of great commentary about pop culture and film and the relationship between critics and the work, and I think a lot about making your own way, and the classic trying to do something with your life and midlife crisis. Very human story, and I think the play within a play and the whole trying to be shot like one take, try to be actually in the Playhouse in Broadway was fantastic, and of course just the little not so subtle nods to possibly Keaton's own experience as an actor,
Right.
going from the Batman movies to
Multiplicity.
maybe some struggle, maybe dealing with his identity and how he wants to be remembered. It's
Yeah.
a really powerful story, but also just kind of with some superhero allegories in there, and a really thought-provoking ending that people have asked me what happened, and I'm like, I don't know. It's alright.
Yeah. For me, that's what keeps it from being like as great
Hey,
as you guys liked it. The ending is a little too ambiguous, I think, for my taste.
well, I mean, I think there's probably only a couple really direct ways you could go with the ending, and I think all of them are fine.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple probably ones, and I think that's okay. I don't think it's the most ambiguous ending ever, and I think that.
Oh no.
No.
I think the conclusions you could come to, I think are fine, and I think that's what.
Yeah.
And I did give the movie an A, although I've only seen it once. I've never gone and rewatched it.
Maybe sometime. It's a fantastic movie,
Yeah.
and I really do think it's one of Keaton's best performances, if not his best. It's really good. It was a good year. Also, number 8 has really stuck with me too. Also a very human story, and a really, oddly enough, kind of has a overlying power of drumming, kind of the Birmingham.
I was going to say, yeah, same year.
Whiplash.
Yeah.
Whiplash was great. I think it's weird that people only appreciate J.K. Simmons more now, I think, because of Whiplash, but I never really got that. I think he just delivered.
Well, those farmers ads, too.
Yeah.
He's big on those.
But, man, I feel... I think about some really complex characters that were very well written, very believable, very flawed, incredibly well acted by both of them. But honestly, that tension between them, I think, was just a really, really natural, organic sort of thing. And there was a lot of power. But really, it's just one of the great human villains, one of the great evil teachers, perhaps.
I don't know. I think that is open to some discussion. For sure.
And that's, I think,
I think that's what is great about that movie.
It's like, okay,
That's on my list.
how far you get to push the person to achieve greatness, and how far is too far.
Right.
And of course, that whole ending performance was just
So good.
fantastic, and in and of itself is like a short film. So I think they should do a musical based on Whiplash, drumming heavy. Great movie. Number 7. Also, no surprise to anybody, but just one of the most hard-hitting dramas ever about redemption. I mean, come on. Calvary.
Oh, there it is.
Just a fantastic film, and really gets you right here. So, it wouldn't be right without this list. So.
Yeah, it's
Gleason, too.
And let's just talk about it for a minute, because obviously we haven't really yet. I mentioned it in my honorables, but I mean, this is a movie that a lot of people don't know.
I think
Absolutely,
So I think it
it's very undersung.
Very undersung. Brendan Gleeson is phenomenal in this movie, and O'Dowd.
O'Dowd especially.
Chris O'Dowd, which, by the way, he kind of came and went. I haven't seen him in about 5 years.
I've been wondering what happened to him.
Ever since like the Sapphires and Cavalry, I haven't really seen it, but
He's around.
I guess. But yeah, great movie.
Absolutely. No,
Haunting.
That's a haunting one too.
Yeah.
That's definitely one that I think, unlike a lot of these other movies, I kind of agree with you, Dan. These are ones that I'm like, I really enjoyed. I definitely could see myself watching again. I don't think Calvary is one that I would want to pop in every time, because it is definitely not a light movie. It deals with a lot of difficult concepts about religion and about priests and some of the issues with that, and but really just that man's performance and kind of him trying to stick to his duty and what he believed is right against all odds and against people's perceptions of him. And really the resolution of it, I think, about the idea of forgiveness is just hard-hitting and universal, and I think it's something we all need. So definitely haunts me, but had a really powerful ending, and one I think people need to know more about as well. You're definitely
I agree.
right. More people need to see Calvary. But number 6, kind of onto something. It's not number 1, but I couldn't go 25 without. Wait, don't.
Oh, I'm getting ready. I'm getting the board ready. Oh, is it Django then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't
thought
go.
maybe it was one of our picks.
I couldn't go top 25 with just one Tarantino
I figured.
movie. And I was like, oh
figured.
man, which one am I going to put in here? I love Hateful Eight a lot, but no, Django.
I'm glad Django was on the list over Hateful Eight.
Man, I love Django so much, and
you brought a lot of you broadened my horizons on that movie,
You didn't like it as much.
I think I gave it like a B or a B plus when I
which was-
first saw it, which you wanted to throw me off a ledge.
No, that's
but
not true.
well, but
I don't know, man. I think, man.
yeah, you
I
really turned me around on this.
I mean, maybe it's because I'm such a big Tarantino fan, and I think everybody agrees he's so great. And even like when we talk about it recently, like trying to rank his movies is always so hard for me because even among them, I've got so many favorites.
Right.
And sometimes, of course, it shifts, and I'm like, there's a couple that might be staples, but like sometimes Django's right up there for like I love that movie, and it took me by surprise. But obviously, kind of his take on history and kind of molding it for catharsis, which has been something he's been doing since *Inglourious Basterds*. I feel like that's something he did. I think he perfected very much with Django. I think Jamie Foxx does a great job in that movie. Obviously, was it Christoph Waltz?
Yeah.
Oh man, their dynamics great.
I love those two men in many different movies, but I think it's probably both of their, even over Ray Charles. I think it's both their pinnacles.
They're
Oh, wow.
they're both
Okay.
so excellent, and I think it's DiCaprio just completely owns that horrible villainous character and still brings his own charm to it. Obviously, I think it's really amazingly well shot. I think the music's great. I think that it, obviously Tarantino plays with genre, but also does an homage to it in his best way to make it bigger and better. So I'm not a huge Western guy, but
I'm not either, but it was great.
it
He
is
found a way to make it work.
and I love. It's one of my favorite westerns by far, even though it's more of like a southern western.
Yeah.
But it's a western.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
in
right.
terms
Oh,
of
no, it's definitely
for sure. I just obviously I love a great revenge story, and plenty of gore, plenty of humor, plenty of really quotable lines. Just Tarantino putting himself in the movie.
I'm still waiting for. Well, that was horrible.
I almost got a bad.
I'm still though waiting for the Calvin candy and the King candy crossover.
Oh,
From
really?
Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh,
yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph.
I think that would be good.
That would be the true twist. But yeah, Django. I'm humming it to myself sometimes, like at work. I'll be
Yeah,
like,
there.
Django, Django. It's just
Kerry Washington, great performance from her. even.
great from her. And yeah, actually. I don't know if there's much more I could say to praise Django. Just
So good.
Tarantino's great, but I think it's easily one of his best films. And who knows? Time shifts these things, but
Absolutely.
no, I think Django's always going to be pretty high up there for me. Number 5. Get your board ready, Dan.
Oh no.
This one I thought as a number 1 contender was one of the first ones I thought. So you can tell it made me feel bad, but Guardians of the Galaxy
Darn it.
is a
Hey, top 5 though.
top 5. Good guess.
Not bad.
Really good guess. I thought about it, and it is definitely one of those ones I think about, and it's just a movie that makes me happy for so many reasons, and just the opening scene being so heart-wrenching, and then the shift dynamic to be this really fun romp is just, that's like Marvel's formula in a nutshell. I'm like,
Yeah.
you go into the movie thinking, okay, what is this silly movie going to be, and it rips your heart out. And then you're just kind of, being fed little dance numbers and cheeky fun, like, wow, Whiplash. But I really appreciate it. And just, once again, great performances, great visuals that still hold up. And for me, it's one of the purest comic book movies ever. And what impressed me is that I know the comics pretty well, but I admit I didn't know much about Guardians of the Galaxy at all. I think I might have seen them in a cartoon mentioned before the movie came out, but I didn't know who they were. I had no investment in these characters.
Yeah.
And I left that movie really just thinking, wow, this is like the pinnacle of what Marvel can do, because I know Captain America, I know Thor, I know Iron Man, obviously I know Spider-Man and whatnot. I love these characters already because of so much nostalgia. I think these characters stand on their own so much. And,
They really do.
And I love them for what they are, and oh man, I absolutely enjoy this movie, and I love all the characters, all the chemistry's great. I mean, and the moment with Groot was just heartbreaking. It's too much.
That's a good movie.
It
made my honorable for sure.
Man, I do love some Guardians, but pinnacle of Marvel for me in many ways.
Oh wow, okay.
In many ways. Number 4, I might surprise Justin, but also make him happy. I really, really like Shin Godzilla. I absolutely.
Wow.
Way too high.
I absolutely.
That is
love it.
wild.
Absolutely loved it. I think about just really kind of bringing back Godzilla and using him for some dark commentary. with some political undertakings. And I really like the political stuff. I think that's kind of where you didn't like it, the red tape. And I thought that all the arguing between all the people while Godzilla's rampaging was so realistic. Of course, they're going to make it this bureaucratic decision. Well, what can we do? Well, you can't do this until you sign this off. And they were arguing about, oh, well, how are people going to perceive this? You know, with the rankings and the polls. I'm like, wow, that if Godzilla attacked, I think that really would happen. And honestly, in terms of visuals, all the visuals, the puppet at the beginning, and even I think Godzilla has never looked scarier. He's never been more.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
He's never been more frightening, and I think that movie harkens more than probably any other to the original purpose of Godzilla as this menace of destruction and a force of nature. And I do enjoy the direction with the American version a bit, but now this was definitely my Godzilla movie, and honestly one of my favorites. I watched it again recently. I still loved it.
This is the only one I think on your list I haven't seen.
Yeah,
So-
came out a couple of years ago. I know you're not too big on seeking it out, but honestly, I think you should give it a watch. It's a very good movie. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. Number 3, I think you'll appreciate more though, Justin, or maybe a little more. Is Kubo, the One String.
Wow.
Well, what? No surprise there, right?
Well,
I love Kubo.
You do love Kubo. Justin loves. Well, of course, Justin put it number 2. You put it number 3. So I was going to say Justin loves it more, but I guess that's apparent. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think you loved it enough for your top 25. Yes,
Well,
you do love it.
You remember the
As
review?
I know, one of my all-time favorite reviews
The
of yours.
outside
It is
review.
true.
No, I mean, I agree with what Justin said. I think just the importance of storytelling and what storytelling can be, what it says about us, and just kind of making our own stories. And once again, I think subverting things a little with the power of forgiveness and our family origins and all kinds of great things. And I just think visually it's on a whole nother level. Oh, Kubo is a great movie. Kubo is one of those movies that also, much like Guardians, I think about it and it just makes me happy. It just puts me in my happy place. So I absolutely love Kubo. I think it's great.
Is Blanchett the mom in How to Train Your Dragon?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's why I was confusing her and Charlize. Okay.
There you go.
Got it. Number 2.
Number 2, number 2 might really throw you guys, but this is a movie that was earlier in the decade that I absolutely love. I think it's simple. I think it's incredibly effective. It's one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen,
Green Lantern.
and that is...
Wait, hold on. Yeah, I do. I want to guess one.
I absolutely love this movie. Probably a lot more than you guys, but
Let's see.
I can throw it on any time, and
A
it
comic
gets me
book
pumped.
movie from early in the decade.
Gets me pumped up.
And you're in.
I'm pumped up.
All right.
It's kind of sort of a remake, if that helps.
Oh, it doesn't, because I was going to say Watchmen, but that might have been before the decade even started.
No, I don't think Watchmen's
All
that
right,
far.
I don't have a clue then.
And the law.
It's Dredd.
Oh, Dredd.
I love Dredd.
That is a comic book movie.
Man, I absolutely love Dredd. Carl Urban completely owns it.
Yeah.
He brings Judge Dredd to the screen, and I love how simple it is. I mean, obviously, came out around the same time as the Raid, so some people wonder about that, and I like the Raid movies a lot too. But man, I love the characters a lot in Dredd. I love I think also one reason why it sticks out to me is because I don't really care that much about 3D effects. That's one of the few movies where I absolutely loved the 3D. I thought
I don't think I saw it in 3D.
Oh yeah, I thought that was a great experience with that. They really used that very well. Just a great time. Simple, effective, fun. I think it's one of the best action movies I've ever seen.
Wow.
I love it.
Well, Joe knows action. We've
Yep.
established that.
No, just
Absolutely.
Great editing, great sound design.
Wow. All right.
Great effects, absolutely.
What a movie.
Oh, great movie. Love it.
Okay. Well, you're throwing some curves here.
I knew it.
I got to be honest. All right. Well, let's take a look at our least favorites and our favorites. Now, Justin's pick for Joe is still up here on the board, so it may be correct. I don't know. Also, we haven't heard it from Justin yet, so it might be Justin's number 1 too.
Maybe.
Any guesses for my number 1 now that your picks are all gone?
I thought Brooklyn might have been it.
Brooklyn would have been a good guess.
Yeah, Brooklyn was great.
Sicario.
Okay, let's Sicario 2.
No,
Day of the
no.
Soldado. Well, my number 1 worst, we haven't heard yet, is Cats.
Oh.
If you're new to my channel, check out the 20-minute review I did of how horrible Cats is from the other day. Just don't see it. It's the worst. Everybody involved with it is just losing their minds, thinking that was a good idea. To present the movie unfinished to the public makes no sense. But I talk enough about that in another podcast, so you can watch that. But yes, Cats. I couldn't think of a worse movie this decade than
The
Cats.
Terror.
Now, my number one favorite movie of the decade is any guesses? Any final thoughts?
Hold on. Let me look through
Who's
it
gotta look?
when I print it out here, just to be sure, because maybe I missed something. Final for you.
I'll give you a hint that these actors have both appeared on films in my top 25. One of them in one of my top 10 films.
Has it been referenced in Joe's list or my own?
It has not been brought up.
Okay.
I will also tell you this. Seems like my favorite year of the decade for movies was 2012, because my number 2 was from 2012, as is my number 1, as was Argo, as was many movies.
Juno?
Hunger Games. Juno was before the decade.
Whoops.
Although I do love that movie.
I got no idea.
And it also, 2012 has no movies on my worst list either. So must be a good year. It is Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
This movie, Bradley Cooper has now appeared 3 times on my list because he was in Star is Born and, of course, American Hustle. I think this movie is from, number one, a bygone era of movie making, much like La La Land in a lot of aspects. I mean, this
Definitely.
harkens back to romantic comedies of the 60s and the 70s. The Apartment rings a bell. But it also has a very strong take on mental health, family, obviously romance and love. And I think this is one that led me to read the book as well, like The Descendants, but the book is very different and not nearly as good as the film. I like the choices that David O. Russell and the filmmakers chose to take with this. But, it's another all-star cast. I mean, just the idea, if you take each character, you could give them all of their own takes on the situation. I think the downtrodden mother just trying to keep her family happy and keep everybody happy while her, son is battling mental illness. The husband is obviously battling mental illness as well, but nobody talks about it because he's from a different era. I mean, it just fires on all cylinders. I'll give you that Chris Tucker's part is mostly unnecessary, and Ghost Tucker is a Justin favorite. Where he just fades away from the scene.
Oh no!
It might have been
weird.
It might have been done better in editing.
Yeah.
It could have been slower.
But I think the point of that is that he's obviously no longer with them. But it's a great movie from start to finish. I can watch it anytime, and this is one that like you talked about with Kubo. I mean, I think about this movie and it makes me happy, even though it's got a lot of demons to it.
Sure.
But I think it's a great rom-com. I hate even calling it that because it's so much more than that.
More
But,
dramatic.
yeah.
than I think
like
so.
Jerry Maguire, I guess.
Yeah,
but
romantic dramedy.
all right, Justin, let's hear the worst.
Before I do that, Joe, I need to ask, who's the much more underrated MVP, Ghost Tucker or Fake Baby?
Oh, underrated.
Also,
Oh,
another
no,
Bradley Cooper movie too.
No. Chris Tucker is great at Fading Tucker. No, the baby.
Fake Baby was rough.
Fake Baby is like, I don't know why they said, oh yeah, let's roll this big budget,
Yeah.
and no one's gonna care about the obviously fake baby.
So weird.
Like that was very ridiculous.
So weird.
That was very strange.
Yeah.
Fake Baby is a true American hero.
So weird.
Fake Baby is a trooper. That's for sure. He stole the scene.
Yeah.
He stole the scene. That's for sure.
I apologize.
No, it's a good question.
But, yeah. So moving on to my worst. Gonna switch this up a little bit and open up with an anecdote. Shortly after all the nominations came out, Adam Sandler said if he didn't get nominated, he would try to make the worst movie ever made, pretty much out of spite. Adam,
That was
I
a joke.
truly
Stop.
hope that you see this because I don't know how it is physically possible for you to make a movie worse
Which
than
one?
That's My Boy.
Oh, you do hate that movie.
It is pretty much a master class in how not to write a movie,
Wow.
direct a movie, star in a movie,
The Sandberg
produce
hate.
a movie.
The Sandberg hate. He hates Popstar. He hates That's My Boy. What's so funny about your hatred of that movie is that it doesn't even make my cut for Sandler's bottom, 5. Like Ridiculous Six,
Oh.
Zohan,
pretty
Chuck
bad.
and Larry. Some of these weren't in this decade, but
Yeah.
still. Wow. That's surprising. I know you do hate that movie.
What did he not get nominated for?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. Which,
Oh.
in his
Did you
defense,
see?
is a very good performance.
okay, all right.
It's a good movie.
He can do drama. We've seen Rain
Yeah.
Over Me.
Yeah.
Spanglish.
Meyerowitz
You know,
Stories is
you
very,
like
very good.
Spanglish, yeah.
Yeah. But just, I can't believe this movie got made. It's offensive on every possible level. It's sexist on every possible level. It's unbelievably inappropriate on every possible level. I don't even know who this movie is for. It's beyond disturbing. It's not funny. And it just insists on overstaying its welcome at every turn.
Wow.
It is probably one of the very few times I can say when I finally pulled out the disc from my DVD player, I contemplated smashing it into a million pieces so future generations could never see this movie.
That was the only copy they made, so if you did that would
Yeah.
have been, that would have been true.
Oh yeah,
I never even seen that copy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
One less.
Joe,
book
you've
for
never seen That's My Boy.
No,
I would be very curious on your take.
Well, I know that it has a reputation as being one of the ones that is most hated, but I have heard some people say they kind of like it though.
I got a few laughs
Like,
out
I've
of it.
heard some people say some laughs. Actually, I was actually surprised when you said Adam
It's
Sandler.
bad.
I thought you were going to say Jack and Jill.
I thought he was going to say Ridiculous Six, actually.
Oh, okay. Because I've heard
There's so many choices.
unfortunately. So
But yes, I actually kind of forget
Well,
that movie exists. That's My Boy is just so middling for me
I mean,
that I don't put it in.
I-
Certainly not his best, but I don't put it in his worst.
I like Zuckerberg, so I think that I might get a few laughs from him at the very least. But
Sandberg.
Sandberg, sorry, Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook.
Oh yes.
That's another, not
that would have been an odd movie.
not the social network.
just
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
it's the crossover no one ever
Yeah.
wanted. Knew they wanted.
All right. Wow. What a number one. All right.
All right.
So, Justin, what is your number one best?
Better
Alright.
than That's My Boy, I hope.
Oh, by leaps
would
and
have to
bounds. And that is, surprise to probably no one, Inside Llewyn
Yeah,
Davis.
I knew it. I knew
Okay, that's
that.
why he said that.
Yeah.
Honestly, just it's amazing how much this movie has stuck with me ever since we watched it. I think it's got so much going for it, and yet I think it's also kind of a brilliant metaphor for just this entire decade as a whole. Like, there's so much untapped potential in this movie, but nobody really pays attention to it. The Academy certainly did.
It doesn't get it doesn't
That
get
is
spoken
true.
about.
That is true. It should have been
Forgotten
given
film.
More
Yeah,
love.
and
Perdition.
very, very perditioned.
Mhm.
But weirdly enough, the people who have seen it bring it up all the
It's
time.
a chef.
It's absolutely a chef.
It's a
very,
chef.
It's a very good
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I have met one person in the time since we reviewed it that did not like it, and it is literally just that one person.
Weird.
But it's just got all this potential. You can read it as a straightforward story. You can read it as kind of a deeper tragic comedy on just the entertainment industry as a whole. There's so much to unpack here, and there's so much to return to. And on top of that, it's just a beautifully looking movie with some great music. And
That's
I
a
really
musical on your list, Justin.
Huh.
it is
It's another
it is
one.
more or less a musical.
Yeah.
Musical biopic sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I go back and forth about whether or not movies that are about music are necessarily musicals, but
Musical.
because yes, they
I guess.
perform, but
I've always thought of musicals as literally being, the traditional. We all just get together and start getting into a musical number.
yeah, here's a big song.
Yeah.
Like the.
But like
you
a
got
star,
it.
but A Star Is Born isn't like that
Yeah.
either. I mean, that's a movie about somebody trying to make it in the music industry.
I think that's
Yeah.
usually like I
And
guess
once,
kind of
for that matter.
Once,
musical
Judy Garland. I mean, there's a
something.
lot
Yeah.
of movies like that, I guess,
Mhm.
that are not your typical. Well, even La La Land. I mean, she's trying to become.
Yeah.
I mean, people do bust into song, but
Yeah.
I mean, she's also trying to break into the industry.
Mhm.
It's an interesting topic for another show, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I would. I think I would consider this a musical of sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
that's-
hybrid. It's a lot of
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
It's a Silver Linings Playbook.
Very much so.
It's a lot of different things in one,
Yeah.
which is never. Well, I shouldn't say it's never a bad thing. some directors have proven that wrong.
It's hard to pull off,
but
you know?
but it's hard to pull off successfully.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Definitely.
All right. Wow. Well, Joe, is that? Well, first let's hear your worst. What is your number one worst?
My worst, I think. Oh man.
Another Transformers movie?
No, not another Transformers
Okay.
movie. I think it's definitely worse than That's My Boy, though. Because you guys probably don't even remember it, but I remember it because I sat in the theater the whole time watching it, and I was like, wow, this is a complete and utter waste of my time, and I hate myself for watching
Is it? Wait, is it a Sandler movie?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No.
It's 2014.
It's based on it's 2014. It's based on one of my favorite heroes from mythology, The Legend of Hercules.
Oh,
That
so bad.
Movie was a complete
Yeah.
slog.
And that was the year they did two, right? They
Yes.
did the one with The Rock.
Yes.
That's not this one.
No,
No.
that's,
And then that was just called Hercules,
yes, the
which
Rock,
was okay.
The Rock movie was okay,
Yeah, it was
but it
all
was
right.
infinitely better than this other
This
movie,
one was
which
horrible.
had no soul.
Nope.
Nobody
lifeless.
cared. It was a lifeless
Yeah,
picture.
very lifeless.
It was just like all this stuff was happening, no investment, no one cared. It was just horrible. You felt people were just wasting time while they were making it. And
Yeah.
I was wasting my time watching it, and I hated the fact that I watched it.
They didn't even get the lore right.
No,
Right?
No, they never get the lore right, but at least it felt like The Rock's character was a little more close to the traditional Hercules.
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
even the guy that got portrayed was completely forgettable and bland.
Yeah.
Like everything
I couldn't
else.
even
movie.
tell you. Yeah. Who it was.
Exactly. It was just this extremely bland movie.
Wow.
It was dull. It was forgettable. It was terrible.
Okay.
So yeah, Legend.
What a bad movie.
Oh man, I was going through the list and I saw that and I'm like, yep, that's definitely number one.
I'm surprised we didn't hear God's Not Dead from Justin. Was
No.
that in consideration?
That'd probably be just.
I'm surprised I had a Christian movie on mine, Left Behind, 2014.
That probably would be dishonorable
Rayford
mention number
Steele.
3.
It's
Like
Sorbo.
it's a bad movie, but it's a great Kevin Sorbo performance.
It
Yeah.
is not a bad Kevin Sorbo performance.
Hercules did a
Hercules
good job.
again, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what made me think of that, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I didn't put that together, but...
The legendary
Yeah.
games.
Alright, but what is your number one
All right.
best?
Well, my number
Is
one.
Justin correct? Is it
All right.
Inside Llewyn Davis?
First of all, Justin, I'll say you're not correct.
Wow.
Though I do
All right.
think it is a great choice and it was a
Nobody
good
got it
guess.
right.
Because I remember when I saw Inside Llewyn Davis, I thought it was a fantastic movie.
Good guess.
And I still do. It was a really good guess. The problem was, I don't know why, but over time, I did actually start to kind of lose my connection to it a little bit. And I kind of forgot about it. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Inside Llewyn Davis is a great movie, and I have to go back and watch it again. But that was a great choice. But I think that you both will appreciate my choice. My number one is everything I guess I want in a movie. The pinnacle of cinema, the masterpiece, Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, okay. Great choice.
You want to talk about
It is a great choice.
like a pretty much non-stop thrill ride from beginning to finish, just complete adrenaline rush, but complete, beautiful meshing of practical effects with CGI done tastefully, fantastic performances. Once again, using a simple story to say a lot, using your dialogue carefully, using your shots beautifully to convey just so much emotion through imagery and sound. It's just got a little bit of everything, and I think it proves that, I mean, this guy who worked on the Babe films, I think he did, what, Pig in the City, or
Both.
both of them?
Believe so.
I think he wrote or directed them, like, just knowing that, and then seeing his legacy and how much he topped himself, and just the brilliance of all the hard work that went into this movie, and how much it translated onto this just fantastic experience. I really think it's the pinnacle of action, and
Wow.
in many ways of cinema. I think it's got a little bit of everything. There's a lot more going on than you might think, and even so, if you just want to enjoy it as a fun action romp, it's that and much more. So
Yeah, great choice.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's one I've actually seen just the one time.
Wow.
I saw it in the theaters, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it was an honorable for me and not on my list like you guys. I sort of went back to films I've seen several times, and that's why some of the heavier ones,
Yeah.
on your list that are great, also didn't make my cut. But very interesting list all the way around.
Absolutely.
However, 0 movies were on all 3 of our lists. So we had a couple. We had Black Swan. There was a couple of overlaps
Yeah.
with 2 people,
Kubos,
but a couple of Kubos. But wow, so I was the closest on that. I thought at least we'd get 2.
Yep.
But I thought maybe Whiplash would be on everybody's list
Yeah.
too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, when you're doing a whole decade and only 25. I mean, on average, then each year is only going to have like 2 or maybe 3 films.
No,
Right.
I will say
And it was hard.
It was hard.
It really was.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I could have put like maybe even more thought into some of them, but at some point I'm like, look, I have to kind of be brutal about this.
Right.
Like I know this is a great movie, but is it my personal favorite of the decade? No. And I just,
Well,
I'm
and
just,
like
cutting
you
it
said
away.
when I read off my 15 honorable mentions,
like it hurt.
those are all
A
like
great movie.
I could see any of those on any of our lists. Spotlight. I mean, what a great
yeah,
movie.
I
Yeah.
thought about Spotlight.
You know, Osage County, great
Osage
movie.
County.
So
Absolutely.
Inside Out is a great movie.
Yeah, there's
Definitely.
some Pixar's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention, a lot of movies that weren't mentioned that we all gave A's or A pluses to, over the decade. I said to Joe when we were sort of compiling the list, and he asked, like, what kind of thing should I be thinking about? I gave him the King's Speech example.
Oh,
King's Speech was an A plus for me, and it remains so.
such a good movie.
It's so good,
But I don't.
but it wasn't even in my initial 76.
Like I didn't think
when
about it at all.
when I think
Yeah.
about movies I go back to, is the King's Speech brilliantly made? Yes. Does it deserve its A plus? Probably, but does it for me rank in my all time best decade? It really doesn't. But it doesn't take away its A plus. So it's an interesting list.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Because
Yeah.
it's like you're putting stuff up there that maybe you graded less than something else.
Oh, for sure. I
But
know I did. Absolutely.
yeah, well, and there you go. Like my top 2 were both from the same year, but the one I had number 1 that year was my number 2 for the decade. So yeah, good lists all around. We'll be back with a best of 2019 show very soon before the Oscars, and then Justin and I will do our Oscar. I haven't asked him yet, but he's going to do it.
Oh, of course.
The Oscar picks. And the Oscars has moved up this year to the beginning of February, so we'll be getting those out very soon on the channel. And in the meantime, Joe and I have been doing the Fraser Friday shows, so those are popping up. Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Take it easy.